hello to anyone that is listening. This is a different video today. Normally I talk about all sorts of things, Bigfoots, aliens, spirits and so on, but I put a video up earlier on today to say to people, if there's anyone out there that genuinely, hand on their heart, believes 100% that there is an almighty being, and that same almighty being was the one that's referred to in the Bible, please let me know. I would love a debate, because every time I've tried to have a debate with people, I start talking and they run away. Literally, I mean, I have had. Sorry, there's a message there. I have had. Sorry, another message coming through. I have had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, and because I engaged with them. This is going back years. Because I engaged with them, and obviously I was interested to find out their take on things. And people think that I'm just out to bash people. I'm not. I'm interested in that, to hear their side and why they got to that point of view. Unfortunately, the Jehovah's Witnesses didn't seem to want to come back much after that. And I have seen people preaching in the streets. And I've gone up to this young girl, and she's there with her Watchtower type books. And I said to her, hi, I said, what you're doing? And she says, I'm just spreading the word, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's lovely. It's good. I said, can I just ask you, are you aware of the Anunakki? And she went, what? Oh, God. So I said, it's an alien race. I said, I know it sounds stupid, but we actually do have proof of them. The ancient tablets, the carvings, the buildings that they actually said that they built in those same tablets, etc., etc. She went, all right, okay. And I said, I don't know if you're aware, but the original text from the Bible that you're sort of talking about while standing here actually originally comes from the original texts of the Anunakki, which are an alien race. She was like, oh. And at that point, the girlfriend I was with at the time was yanking me away, because I would have probably stayed there for 4 hours. But this poor girl, she looked like a rabbit in headlights, because she had no idea. So in the end, I sort of said to her, look, it's up to you, because I don't want to, if it brings comfort to you that you think that there was this magical being that just magically appeared and decided to do all these things, fine. But, that's up to you. But, I just said to her, there might be slightly more out there than you realise, instead of just focusing on one such subject. Ruben's joined us. Sir, I just love your content. Oh, thank you very much. That's really nice of you to say. I try and be as mindful as I can of people, because I know my mum, as you can imagine, if I bore you I bore my mum twice as bad, explaining stuff to her, but she still wants to hold on to the one glimmer that there is an almighty being looking out for her. So regardless of whether that mighty being's ever actually looked after anyone whatsoever, we've got zero proof of that. But she still wants to believe in it. So I am more than happy for her to feel comfort in that version compared to the proper version. Amir has wrote, so God is not an Anunaki. Okay, so the way it works is and this is, you can just, if you do your research, if you don't do research, then you'll just think the Bible is the Bible, and any other religious literature is taken from, even Scientology, part of it is taken from the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki was an alien race, came down here 450,000 years ago, mined for gold because they wanted to sprinkle it in their atmosphere, and after 150,000 years on Earth mining, they managed to create a human from the Neanderthals in Africa to get to do the work, and that's what happened. Roll on to after the flood, and the Anunnaki then decided to allow humans to inherit the earth because they believed that there was a creator of everything. So this isn't what the Bible's talking about. The Bible talks about the Anunnaki, but the Anunnaki in their texts talk about a creator of everything that they believe wanted humans to inherit the earth. So the Anunnaki then started to teach us everything. This is why Mesopotamia, which is where they were, has all the laws, and where we learnt farming, where we learnt time, where we learnt Ten Commandments, and the long list of things that everything comes from that area. And they even wrote about their original history, such as how Earth was formed, from another planet smashing into that, how Enki, one of the Anunnaki, came down and catalogued, when they first got here, they catalogued things for the first 6 days. Water, plants, animals, insects, and so on. For the first 6 days, they did all of that. And then Enki said, right, 7th day, from now on, will be a day of rest. So when you say, is there a God, the Anunnaki believe there's a God, but the God that the Bible is talking about is a copy, as I've just said. We know that 100% because some of those tablets are actually in the British Museum, available for people to read, or read the translations, not by Sakurai Sitchin, but by the actual museum themselves. And they talk about Enki, Noah, and so on and so on. So unfortunately, the Bible is a copy of the English version's a copy of the Hebrew version, which was a copy of the Aramaic version, which was a copy of the Babylonian version, which was a copy of the cuneiform Sumerian version, which is why it's got so many holes and flaws in it, because obviously all these different translations, etc. So the Anunnaki is not a god; it is a name for a race, a team name for the ones that came to Earth. The actual race name is Elohim. So if I know it sounds weird if you've all you've ever done is read the Bible, for example, then you're going to say no, the Bible. But if you just open your mind and look back a little bit further than the Bible, bearing in mind the Bible's virtually brand new compared to the ancient text that I'm referring to, and you see the same, if you've got the same stories in the Bible and the same stories from thousands and thousands of years ago, which one would be the one that would have copied? Would it have been the original ones that copied from the Bible that came well after, or would it have been the Bible copying from the older ones? And of course, it's just logic. Merle has wrote, hello, hi Merle. Eva has wrote, hi Eva as well, thank you. Zbugs wrote, the Anunnaki are beings that came down to Earth in search for resources. That's correct, yes. They did indeed. Rybo wrote, who do you think built the pyramids? Well, we've actually got the actual text that mainstream will never want to tell you, but they are, I think they might be in the Nineveh library. And it's basically the Anunnaki, and it even tells you why they built them, and it doesn't tell you how they built them, it tells you why they built them, or certainly the ones in Giza, and it tells you who designed them, which was an Anunnaki called Ningazida, who was the son of Enki, which was one of the princes. There was 2 princes and a princess. Enki, Enlil, and then the princess was Nimna. But if you do your research, you'll find that they actually changed their names over time. So Nimna bearing in mind that they were here for 450,000 years, they changed their names to suit. So when she gave birth to humans, they changed her name to Ninharshag, whereas Enki was originally called Ea on Nibiru, but when he came to Earth and was assigned the Abzu, which was South Africa, he was then given the title of Enki, Kai being Earth, En being ruler. Technically, he was the ruler of water, which is why we end up with Poseidon and Neptune being the same person. And N, supreme, Lil, not 100% sure what Lil is, but he was a supreme ruler of the whole of Earth, not just the water. So it was the Anunnaki that built the pyramids, basically. Merlers wrote, what if the white race was created from DNA of blacks? Blacks already existed on the planet. Okay, so I have to be careful what I say, because when I quote the original text about colour, skin colour, I get 90%, well, 100% of people with different colour to me, and I'm pinky colour, pale pink. I have to be careful what I say, because people get so upset over things that... anyway, they always say to me, no, it was the Anunnaki were dark-skinned. And then, no problem, just show me where it says that. And of course, not one person... I even did a video, thousands of views, but not one person's come back with any evidence. And that's because the Anunnaki... Even in the Anunnaki form, when I say form, in other words, the location of Mesopotamia and Africa, etc., the descriptions were they were pale skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. Roll that on to when they had, when they became the same 12 gods in ancient Greece. Bearing in mind their lifespan was a lot longer than ours because of their planet themselves. Long story. The descriptions of both, for example, Poseidon and Neptune, both Roman and Greek, as well as Enki, have blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin. So what they did, in going back to your question about blacks, the texts, the cuneiform tablets say that the Anunnaki, when they was here for 150,000 years, they revolted against the leaders because they didn't want to carry on doing the work, which was mining for gold. And I do get people saying to me, oh, well, if they can travel in space, they can magically mine gold out of... And that's like, no, it's still work. These Anunnaki didn't ever need a mining equipment until they realised their planet's atmosphere was dwindling. So then they had to... It wasn't like... for millions of years that all they've been doing is mining, so they've got it down to a fine art. No, this was probably the first time they ever had to mine, especially on another planet. So they not only had to bring the equipment here, so I think people just assume that because they've travelled from one planet to another, that, if we give us another 100 years, if we travelled to another planet, we would still have to mine almost, with people down in the mines, and when we do it now. I don't think we're going to have any magic equipment that will just literally take gold or whatever materials out of rock. Anyway, so the Anunnaki got upset, and then Enki, who was the clever one out of the two brothers, he had already been messing around with possible dinosaurs. And I say possible because the description when he showed Nimna these creatures, they were, the back half was one creature and the front half was another. In other words, he was already manipulating DNA. So he'd then said that I think I can genetically modify this species, which I've always said was Neanderthal, and as opposed to Homo erectus. And fairly recently, mainstream's pretty much agreed with me the fact that Neanderthal over Homo erectus would have been our next closest relative. So Neanderthal were covered in hair, top to bottom. So a mini Bigfoot. No, they're not Bigfoots, but a mini Bigfoot, if you will, or almost like an ape with hair or fur, hair, I guess it would be. So they genetically modified over time the Neanderthal, and I mean, I can go into more detail, but bottom line is they finally got one that worked. They actually said, one didn't cry, one still had hair, one this, one that. And eventually they finally got the one that they was happy with, that had all the attributes that they required, and then they described it as red like the clay. Now, is it red? Are we, is it brown? Is it red? Who really knows? To us, red is red, but to them, red might have looked more brown to them. It might be as simple as that. But either way, that's what their description was. The female version, when they did it again to get a female version, that came out with the same colour as them and the colour hair of sand. So instead of blonde, it was a sandy colour hair, and the baby girl was pale skin. But as you can probably guess, because of Africa and the amount of darker skinned people there, it clearly, as they carried on producing these, they did 7 males, and they did 7 women. So my guess, the ratio was more darker skinned than the lighter skinned, and over time it just become the darker skinned. So that's really the Anunnaki side of it with the colours. And then down the line, just quickly following for those that don't know, down the line, another 200,000 years later, the Anunnaki then bred with those humans to create what we now know as Adam and Eve and demigods, and sometimes Nephilim, depending whether they had a deformity called gigantism, as we would call it now. So in other words, they didn't always have giants when they had children with us, with the humans that were around. And that's my take on the gigantism. I'm the only one that's come up with the logic on that, simply because otherwise we would all be giants now. If we are offspring of the Anunnaki, which we would be, especially POW people, then we would be all giants. But no, we're not. So it's a gene that obviously messed up a bit and made them absolutely huge, bigger than the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki were 8 to 12 foot tall in the first place, which all makes a lot more sense now when you read the Bible. Rubens wrote, "Hey, was Enki the angel Gabriel, or which one gave us fire?" Okay, so Enki, well, the Anunnakis obviously probably would have had fire, because they taught us how to smelt down the gold that they were mining. So yeah, they had technology to know how to create fire. But angels are not what you think. I know it depends whether you read the Bible and want to be steadfast, but if you actually read the original text where they talk about angels, once you realize that heaven, when they talk about heaven, so for example, the book of Enoch talks about heaven. Lots of old texts do. Now, heaven back then should have been space. They didn't know the word for space, so they called it heaven, because it was up. Craft would go up and come back down with people in it. The same person would go up into heaven and come back down. Angels would sit and have lunch with humans. Angels would sleep with humans. So we know that when you actually read it properly, an angel, as in the Hebrew translation, is actually just a messenger. So an angel is just someone that the Anunnaki used. An archangel, if you read the original text, please do, you'll see that an archangel is the pilot. The pilot. And the reason for that is because every time you read it and it says, an archangel came down and took up Enoch, an archangel did this and did that, that's because they could, because they had the ability to take the craft up into space, or heaven as one would call it. So when you break it down a lot simpler than just sort of rose-tinted glasses reading the Bible, you realise that yes, they're not, and the fallen angels are not little angels with wings. Again, the Aegi, which were the Watchers, the actual translation of Aegi means watching something. I can't remember the exact translation, but watching. They came down, they were on Mars. They came down to the mountain summit. Now, you can't come to a summit of a mountain unless you're higher than the mountain, of course. So they came down from Mars because they were there as an away station. working, between Earth and Nibiru, their own planet, where gold would be dropped off there. They would refine it and so on. But they got annoyed and they came down and stole women, all in ancient texts prior to the Bible. And these became the fallen angels. So in other words, an angel, again, not really, it's someone with a job, if you break it down like that. So they're not little things. And that's how the angels could have relationships with humans, how they could sit and have cups of tea with them and take them up into heaven and bring them back down, and just makes so much more sense when you actually read it like that. Lords has wrote, where does the Bible talk about the Anunnaki? Well, first of all, the Bible's been taken out of bits out of it as it goes along. So the Old Testament, you'll see Enoch's name quite a few times, and the latest Bible, you'll see he's only mentioned once, and that's the first clue for you. Second clue, because I'm guessing you might be religious, seeing as your name is Lord Sith, maybe. Second clue is the Anunnaki is the name that was given to them by King Anu of their own planet. Their race name is Elohim, so straight away you have the Elohim in the Bible. So then you realise, okay, so which, because you're asking why aren't the Anunnaki in the Bible? So if you read, I'll give you an example, the tablet that talks about Noah. So if you're in the Bible, it will say God spoke to Noah. The actual tablet, which is in the British Museum, translated not only by Zachariah Sitchin, but by the curator of the British Museum, on YouTube, watch my videos or go to his videos. He stands in front of a whole crowd of people and reads the chapters from the tablet where he says, Enki says, and then he goes on to talk about how Enki told the reed wall, which was a wall inside Noah's, and Noah's wasn't his real name to start with. So there you have it. You've basically got a tablet where the Bible has changed it to read an almighty being that you perceived as, but unfortunately we have the original text that says Enki, along with all the other texts where Enki says he come from another planet. So you can't pick and choose. You can't say, okay, well, I'll have the one where all right, we'll stick with the one because we can see, Noah and he saw Noah. But the ones where he comes from another planet, I don't like that. No, that Enki's not true. That text is not true. But the one with Noah, and he tells them exactly how. Thank you for the beer glass, whoever just done that. So basically, you can't pick and choose which Enki you want and what text you say are correct, because obviously they are taken and used in the Bible. I'm not saying the Bible did a bad thing. It was just a copy of a copy of a copy of the cuneiform tablets, and therefore it got things wrong. Ray has wrote in Genesis, esoteric, I think it is. So you think they are coming back? No, no. I'm not the bloke that wrote the book that says the Anunnaki are going to come back in 2022. Hats off to that guy, and all he'll have to do is just change the title to 2023 when they don't come back this year. So props to him, but no, they're not coming back. They already deal with our military, so they're not coming back. Mermin has wrote, just remember the tale you are telling was also written and can be misinformation. Yes, I hear what you're saying, which is why when the Anunnaki actually drew, for example, maps on their clay tablets of buildings that they built that got flooded over when the tsunami happened. Yes, it was a tsunami, it wasn't a flood, and I could go into details about that. Then when the buildings were found buried because of the flood, obviously took silt, mud and everything else. That's why a normal flood, you would have just had water and then it would subside and you still would have had your buildings. But with the flood, as a tsunami, and if anyone's watched any tsunami, now imagine that tsunami 50 times, 100 times more powerful than what we've seen because of the ice shelf sliding off of Antarctic, which is what happened. It literally flooded over all of their locations, and they say that. But luckily, they had already done maps in the stone. If you don't believe me, go and research it. Maps of where certain places were, their spaceport, their medical centre, Enlil's location, and so on and so on. So when you say that it's misinformation, we've actually got writing talking about such things as that. Now, also, there's tablets called the Elish, ancient Sumerian tablets. And they talk about Earth not even being here and Nibiru coming in, and they explain what other planets were already here before Nibiru came in. They even talked about Nibiru smash, or the four moons of Nibiru smashing into a planet called Tiamat, smashing up Tiamat, creating Earth, creating the moon, and an asteroid belt. Now, this tablet wasn't found until the 1700s, late 1700s. We had no idea about the asteroid belt and the other planets that it talks about until at least 100 to 200 years later, when we started getting telescopes that could actually look that far up. So when you say misinformation, how can you have misinformation when it's telling us stuff we didn't even know and we've now verified? So I know which one I would go with. The ancient texts that literally point to everything that they say and even have carvings of the Anunnaki. And every evidence points to Mesopotamia as the location for everything that started, which is exactly where the Anunnaki were and where they said they were. So I don't know how much more evidence you would need. And we've even found skeletons, 8 to 12 foot skeletons, that the Smithsonian has destroyed and had a court case in 1902 over destroying them because they didn't want the history to be changed from what it is now, which is a lie now, but compared to back then. So yeah, I would go along with the tablets every day of the week. Rubens wrote, Anu or Enki, who gave us the knowledge of weapon making and so forth. Well, Anu technically only came here on visits. Enki, I mean, when you say weapons, the sort of only weapons humans were sort of taught to make were swords, bow and arrows, believe it or not. But that's way down the line, and that's only when the Anunnakis were fighting each other, e.g. Marduk, Ra, and Enlil, and Iana, etc. So that was when we got taught weapons, just simply because they were using us as pawns to fight their battles. Brett has wrote world's greatest storybook. I'm guessing you're referring to the Bible. It tried. It really did. It tried to translate the tablets, but you got to remember when they were originally translated from originally cuneiform to Babylonian to Aramaic to Hebrew, a lot of words they didn't know. We know words like space, transportation, lights, light beams, fire, rockets, spaceships. We know all these new words, but back then they called them chariots. For a spaceship. So it tried. The Bible tried. So I don't think it done it in a malice way. Unfortunately, over time, where people have changed the Bible, humans have changed the Bible for their own greed. Yes, but originally, I think it was just trying to copy those amazing stories that were all true. Ted Smith wrote, "People actually believe this stuff. There is only one true God. All the others are fallen angels." Okay, Ted. I have asked would someone do a live chat with me, but so far no one's come up with that. And the reason why is because, for example, I'm just going to tell you that there's 4,000 religions right now. 4,000 religions right now. What makes your one the right one? Just where's one question for you right there. Second of all, the one true God, you've got zero evidence of, but we have evidence of the Anunnaki. And bearing in mind, the original Old Testament did actually have Elohim, which is a race name for plural. And it also said in their image, not in his image. So straight away, why would you be reading different books because they've been changed? Which one are you going to go with? And if you say, oh, I'll go with the older one, then really what you're doing is dismissing the other books, the other Bibles. And that's not right, is it? Surely. But in the actual original text called the Book of Enoch, the Anunnaki write and say, bearing in mind, you do realise, you're obviously a smart person, maybe, you do realise that the Book of Enoch was the original Bible. What? No, it's not. Blasphemy. Yeah, it is. Well, where is it now? Well, actually, the Ethiopians have still got part of that in there as their Bible. Wait a minute. No one told me that. No, there's still one true God. Well, I'm just telling you that your original Bible is not the original Bible. It's actually pretty much you can go to the Ethiopian Bible and you'll find that was the original Bible. Well, hang on a minute. I've just been told that there's one true God and now you're telling me there's Anunnaki? Well, yeah, because you haven't researched. What do you mean I haven't researched? Well, you didn't know about the Book of Enoch, did you? And did you even know that in the Book of Enoch, which predates the Bible by thousands of years, it talks about their word, their written word, should not be changed by man. Where's that sound familiar? Hang on a minute. That's in the Bible, isn't it? There's something like that in the Bible. Well, yes, there is. But the funny thing is, what the Bible doesn't actually add is the next bit that's in the Book of Enoch, which says, so I'll go through it again, just because obviously you want to take all this in. Our written word should not be changed by humans, but they will. Wow. They knew we was going to start messing around with their ancient texts, and lo and behold, he was right. We have. You do realise that the Bible version says, thou shalt not change, words to this effect, thou shalt not change the word of God. But we have. Because, as I say, the Elohim, in their image, and of course we've got the original texts that talk about Enlil, Enki, Enlil saying, I don't want those, meaning the new humans that they was talking about creating, in their image. Enlil says that. And you do realise that Enlil is Yahweh and Enki is Lord. Next time you read the Bible, this is why no one's going to chat to me on a live chat. This is sad, because I put a video up this morning saying, will someone, because no one ever wants to do a live chat with me, because they will, they don't, okay, anyway, yeah, so next time you read the Bible and it talks about Yahweh, for example, and the Lord, they are two different gods, which were Enlil and Enki. So next time you read in one's wrathful and angry and wants to kill humans, and the other one likes humans, but when you're reading the Bible, you're thinking that God's 1 minute angry, next minute he's happy. Two different characters. But I'm sure you're aware of all of this. Now, do you think there's still one true God? Or do you think that the actual text that the Bible's copied from, that you believe in the Bible, which has been changed by man, is still correct, even though you've got zero evidence whatsoever of an almighty being that created Earth, when you've got tablets like the Yuma Relish in the British Museum that talk about the planet Nibiru smashing in to a planet that they called Tiamat? Which one, hands up, which one do you think is more real? A copy of a copy of a copy, or the original? Okay, moving on. Trillions wrote, so everything on our planet is an image of things existing outside Earth already. So everything on our planet is an image of things existing outside. I'm not sure what you mean by an image of it. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. Is an image of things existing outside of Earth already. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry, it's probably me, not you. Ted has wrote, Can't believe people actually believe this stupid stuff. Wow, your storytelling has more flaws. Now, that's the same person. He wrote that shortly after he originally wrote the first bit, whereas since then I've just probably knocked him down about 10 times in that short space of time with evidence that he would not have known, because he wouldn't be writing these sort of things. But he'll be gone by the time I get to the. They won't stay. People don't stay, and this is really sad. I've done live chats for 4 hours before, a lot of times actually, and when someone comes on, they'll go, "That's not true, BS, blah blah blah," and I said, "No problem, no problem. Wait, I'll have a proper debate with you," and then later on they're gone. They just, I know time wise, but they just don't, because once they realise what I'm talking about. Like for example, Ted here, when I've just mentioned various things, the Book of Enoch and blah blah blah, that he's probably not aware of. Well, he's not aware of, because otherwise he wouldn't be talking the way he does. They don't come back. They will not challenge me, because if I can point to evidence in the British Museum of a tablet that talks about stuff that is nothing to do with an almighty being, but still how it created Earth, which one is right? An almighty being that you kind of got from a book that was changed by humans, that was a copy of a copy of a copy, or the actual original that's in the British Museum that literally talks about another planet in our solar system that came through from another solar system, whacked into it, created Earth, going back more scientifically, scientists say that the moon is made of the material from Earth. Where does that come from? Well, funny enough, we've got the ancient texts that actually say that. So, which one's right, Ted? Or are you just going to still be blinkered? Fully Glocked has wrote, it is different alien groups who built the other pyramids, like structures such as Mesoamerica. Was it? No, it was still the Anunnaki. No, there is no evidence whatsoever until about 3,000 years ago of any other alien race, and then, 3000 BC, should I say, and then the evidence we've got there would be Greys as described, or if you go by the Hopi Indians, they call them the Ant People, but that's the only other aliens on this planet that popped up, and the pyramids were already built before 3000 BC. Just scrolling down. Zbugs wrote to Ted, "What flaws?" Yeah, I mean, so far, I thought that when he said I've already said flaws. I can't see any. I'm happy to look at them and point out stuff. So good point, Zbugs. Users wrote, 13 angels came to Earth from 13 different galaxies that are on the zodiac. This is why people don't want to chat to me on a live chat. And I mean, voice chat. Because I will ask this to the person. This is why no one wants to. What evidence have you got for 13 angels came to Earth? First of all, what is an angel that you believe? Obviously, I have pointed out clearly that an angel is just even the Hebrew word is messenger, not little angelic flying around with wings on their backs. So first you have to break your comment down. Angels came to Earth. So first of all, where were they? Were they in heaven? And now every clairvoyant, medium and spiritualist, and trust me, I've probably spoke to more than you lot would ever imagine. I think it's got to be 60 different clairvoyants. Some weren't weren't telling the truth, and I quickly worked out which ones they were. And then not only the ones I spoke to, obviously I've had readings myself, but I've also listened to hundreds and hundreds of proper clairvoyants talking, and basically that none of them will tell you there's a heaven. If they tell you there's a heaven, they're a fake. And if they tell you there's a hell, they're fake. What they will tell you, the correct ones, is there's higher and lower frequencies. So straight away, I would challenge you and say, what is an angel? And second, I would say, where do they come from? And third, I would say, you wrote they've come from 13 different galaxies. So first, I would say, where's your evidence of that? you will probably then say someone off the internet, but that doesn't quite work. I would need to, for you to have come with that conclusion, I would need to have a description of the angels, e.g., not someone that's carved one on the front of a building in London, ancient carving, an ancient carving that dates back to, because you're saying this pretty much that the angels, I'm guessing you're saying, came here before the Anunnaki or were the Anunnaki. Now we've got statues of the Anunnaki, plenty. Carvings, statues of the Anunnaki, thousands of them. But I don't recall seeing any angels from that period or before that period of the Anunnaki. So basically what I'm saying to you is I would challenge you and say, point me to where you've got that information from, because I won't talk about stuff if I haven't got the information, or I'm not just going to make stuff up. So, India's wrote, you have so much knowledge. Thank you. Yeah, 40 years of doing this. That's why I would love to chat to someone about God, but they won't. Send me a private message, people, or send me a message on any post that I've done, and I read every single post and just say, in fact, the last video that I've done says, will someone talk to me on a live stream chat, voice to voice? But they won't. I guess they won't, be simply because there is no evidence for what they talk about. Big Rammies wrote, okay, please explain why. I'm not sure what that's referring to now, because obviously I'm now behind on these messages, so forgive me, I don't know what that was referring to. Joanne's wrote, I studied religion and I do not believe the Bible and most religion is based around woman hating. I haven't looked at it that way. When I was reading it, I didn't think of it like that, but obviously if you put your mindset, you could. There's certainly the way the Bibles have been changed by man. Yeah, you could. I wouldn't say. I don't know whether woman hating, but giving man more control over women would probably be more my take on it. But yes, interesting point. Big has wrote, weren't they giants? If you're referring to the Anunnaki, 8 to 12 foot, there's carvings of them standing there with holding lions. I'm 6'3". There is no way I would be able to hold a lion like the carving that they have. Ayana is walking with 3 lions, and she is towering above them, and Anunnaki, etc. So, and then when you go to Greek mythology, which isn't Greek mythology, and you've got the Anunnaki there with them as well, which is Greek gods, and you look at the carvings of them, you'll see that they're about the same size. So either there was just a hell of a coincidence that 12 gods came down from the Anunnaki, and then 447,000 years later, 12 other gods came down and stayed around fairly near where Mesopotamia was in Greece, and they didn't go off to India, well, they did actually, but that's another story. But 12 all looking the same, pale skin, blue eyes, beards, all holding tridents. If you're looking at Enki, for example, he's got a trident in ancient Sumerian carving. Yes, he's holding a 3-pronged fork, shall we say, and just so happens Neptune is. Also, bearing in mind, Enki is the god of water. And if you read the original text, you'll see why he's the god of water. He actually created a craft that could fly using water, which, hats off to him. He's clearly a clever guy. And they used a water cannon to get past the asteroid belt. So, I would definitely say Anunnaki. Celtic, I think it is, has wrote, why don't mainstream schools teach us these old texts? Rockefellers is the biggest problem we've got. They bought into museums. British Museum is also called the Rockefeller Museum, and they're the ones that also bought into the Smithsonian. They tried to buy into that. If you watch my videos, you'll see in 1925 they tried to buy and build a new Cairo museum by giving a donation to the Egyptian government. But the Egyptian government said, hang on a minute, that means you're going to have your own people in here, Americans, that can doctor the history of what we're pulling out of Egypt. And they said, well, we're going to have people there. We're not going to doctor it. Yeah, right. Anyway, the Egyptians refused them at that point, and then they ended up building a Jerusalem. The Rockefellers, people that deal with oil, that was what they were to start with, and are invested in museums and teaching. They actually fund some of the schools, I was told the other day. So basically, the Smithsonian in 1902 had a court case, and I know people's going to try and debunk it, but genuinely there was a court case. I'm just going to plug my phone in. And the court asked, why was you destroying these giants? Now, what they were doing was they was taking so people would donate, or they would buy giant skeletons off of people, ranchers and things that would find them, and they bagged them up in the bones in the bags, and they would give them to sailors. And the sailors, when they were out in the ocean, would drop them in the ocean. Because if we found out, and so to answer your question, why don't mainstream tell us? Bearing in mind, mainstream is run by 13 families, banks, pharmaceuticals, petrol, electric. They're all in on it. But media. But if you said, okay, the Anunnaki were here, that means that their aliens were here, and if aliens are here, then the other little greys that come and kidnap people and abduct them are real. And that means there's anti-gravity devices that Area 51 has that we could be utilising instead of petrol. But hang on a minute, the Rockefellers own the petrol. Why would they not want us to have free? You get it now. So there is no way they're going to allow us to have free energy. No way they're going to allow us to have medical equipment and stuff that can cure cancers. And obviously, the aliens are far more advanced than we are. And so it would change the whole history of our planet, and therefore religion, all these Vaticans, etc., would change, because once you realise the Anunnakis weren't gods, what's the point of donating money to Scientology, to Vatican, to Catholic, Rome, Christian and everything else, all the power of those people. And you got to remember, some of those priests do naughty things to children, and I'm not making that up, that's a fact. That power that they have will go if you said, actually, there's no God, not in the way that, as I say, the Anunnaki believe there is a creator of everything, but the Bible is not talking about that. It talks, everything that it says is written in ancient texts, but obviously as a copy of a copy of a copy, so it gets it slightly wrong. So yeah, Ria's wrote, reincarnation will be the true of our life. Weak energy will take longer to reincarnate, 3 to 7. Zbugs wrote to Celtic, true history does not go with the narrative of the mainstream, yes. Rubens wrote, sorry, I meant to say, and no problem at all. Junkyard Dog has wrote, hi mate, hi, Junkyard Dog. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Phillies has wrote, Jesus was an alien, question mark, question mark, question mark. Well, the beautiful thing is knowledge, and a priest, I can't remember his name, you can find him on the internet. He, genuine priest, was a priest for years, decided to go back and retranslate the Hebrew texts about Jesus, not the Hebrew texts about, further stuff back, but about Jesus. And knowing the words that he knows now, aliens, spaceships, beaming up, transporters, impregnation, implants, blah, blah, blah. I'm just trying to think. Have a look for him. You'll find him. I have done videos on him, so you can, unfortunately, I know there's 800, but I have done videos so you can find his name through that. But what he concluded by translating it with modern language, so instead of heaven, space, things that we actually genuinely know are correct translations, it reads, I read out some paragraphs actually on my videos of what he has, and basically it says that a young girl was taken up in a beam of light and impregnated and sent back down to Earth. Basically, it was a classic alien abduction. And then lo and behold, later on, she has a baby that comes out with features that don't match anyone else. And bearing in mind she was young, and it was a virgin birth, blah, blah, blah. It all makes a lot more sense than, wait for it, an almighty being. This is my favourite. An almighty being. Right, you're all smart. I'm sure you are. Even people that's not even agreeing with me, but you're smart enough to listen to this part, and you'll say, okay, so you're an almighty being. There's there's millions of people now all over the planet, and you want to create a human. Bearing in mind you'd already done dinosaurs, and you'd already done, as if people even believe in dinosaurs. I don't know why they do, think there's no dinosaurs, but some people, believe it or not, actually think there was never any dinosaurs. But this almighty being's already created planets, this, that, and the other, and he decides this time, I'm going to need a woman to create another human, even though I've already created humans from nothing, from clay, which actually is what the Anunnaki actually is talking about. They actually, so there's tablets talking about Enki trying to recreate or to create humans, and they said they needed, they were using materials from their planet, in other words, some sort of beaker or cup or something that they was using. And then at one point he said, hang on, let's try and make it using the clay from Earth. So they actually used Earth's clay to create this bowl, this beaker thing. So that's where the Bible gets the man. Anyway, so where was I? Just rereading again. I hate going off on tangents, forgive me. So Jesus was an alien, a hybrid, yeah, so this was what I say. So you're an almighty being, and you want to spread the word, and you want a human to pay for your sins, or pay for our sins. So what would you do? Would you create, bearing in mind you've already created them from nothing, but this time you need a female to do it. Don't ask me why. But, okay, so you create a human through making a young girl pregnant. And where do you put them? Well, it just so happens in the same area as just above Mesopotamia, which is where Enlil was actually. So you created this person. This person grows up. And hang on a minute. That person's got to get around the whole planet and spread the word. Didn't really think this one through, did you? How far is he going to get on foot? Well, I can't give him a craft. So, yeah, didn't think that one through, did I? So the only place that kind of knew of Jesus was Jerusalem, possibly Egypt. He may have went there. But what about India, Canada, England? Well, it wasn't till the book was written about Jesus that everyone else knew about Jesus. Well, yeah, that's true. So you as an almighty being, would you not have done one on each continent, at least one on each continent? Yeah, that makes a bit more sense than one. The logic isn't there for me as an almighty being to put him on earth. And you do realise that if he was put on earth for our sins, we still carried on sinning. Now, this almighty being that supposedly, and I spoke to Jehovah's Witnesses and said, can God see the future? And they said, of course he can. So this almighty being sticks this guy down, and if it wasn't for the people writing the Bible, these are the true heroes of the story. If it wasn't for the people writing the Bible, if they thought, I can't be bothered, we right now would not be talking about Jesus. And this is as plain as simple as that. Jesus would have come and went, and that would have been the end of it. So hopefully you kind of get what I'm saying. Now, I know it sounds like I'm being facetious, but, you know, just take your rose-tinted glasses off. If you was an almighty being and you wanted to spread the word, you probably would have had a big megaphone and said, listen to me, I am, you know, the almighty being, do as you're told. You wouldn't create one little character and hope that he walks around the whole planet, and no, you just wouldn't. I wouldn't. And so, Reyes wrote, God or Anunnaki, who cares? Just be ready for what's coming. We will be destroyed with a few saved. When you say destroyed, are you referring to ourselves destroying ourselves, or are you saying an alien race destroying ourselves? Frankie's wrote, Jesus was an alien, no doubt. How else would he part the seas and make bread into fish? Again, the problem with that is you do realise the Bible was written at least 90 years after Jesus was around. I can't remember what I had for dinner yesterday. So you've got people that didn't know Jesus writing about Jesus' life. So when the story of parting the seas, now if you've watched my videos, you'll find that I have actually found texts, hieroglyphics that talk about another, like a vizier, for example, helping a lady on a lake in ancient times in Egypt on behalf of the pharaoh, because he saw these ladies, and long story, he parts the lake. This vizier parts the lake, and they walk down and get this girl's earring that she dropped in hieroglyphics. Think of that for a second. You've got Jesus, or Moses, technically, actually, it should be the one that parted the seas. Moses parting the seas, one-off miracle, or not such a miracle after all, because there is actually hieroglyphics of a different story, not the same story, totally different story. So, you know, with the Bible, that's why I always go back to the original texts. I'm not saying the hieroglyphics are 100% correct, but it's interesting. They've got a story about parting water. Mermi has wrote, your description of the Anunnaki appearance is interesting. Mix their DNA with blacks and you have human. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they did. They were 8 to 12 foot tall, white. When I say white, pale-skinned, blue eyes, white beards, which is why we get the description of God. You know, when you first hear the word God, you think of Michelangelo's picture of God with white hair, you know, pale, blue eyes, big long beard. That's because they're already out of bloody Anunaki. But yes, they created the first humans, and the first human didn't have hair, not like the Neanderthals. They actually said that. That was one of their aims. Because I say one of their aims, they didn't actually sit there and write a list for us to read, but when one come out with hair, they abandoned that one. So in other words, they was trying to create something different from what was already here, and they eventually did it, which is us. So my take is, and I know people hate me for this, but my take is Anunnaki power created the black people in Africa, and don't get upset with me for saying that, and then eventually had relationships with those black people to create different coloured people. Now, also, you have to remember that those black people also bred with Neanderthals again. So even though they're now offspring of Neanderthal and Anunnaki, they also bred with Neanderthals. They also bred with Denisms, which was another hominid. They also bred with Homo florensis, Homo erectus, and a few others. And then when the humans that the Anunnaki had created by breeding with the black people, forgive me if you don't like the terminology, I don't know what else to say, those humans then ended up breeding with the black people, with the Denisms, with the other hominids, so which is why, and eventually Homo erectus and so on. And we've got skulls and skeletons, etc., of the mixed between one race and another, going on for, thousands and thousands of years, so we know that that is the case. Wald Wadham has wrote, if we are being honest with ourselves, everything is just speculation, we really don't know. I would totally disagree with that, because hopefully you listened to my part where I was talking about the tablets telling us stuff that we wouldn't have known until at least 100, 200 years later. So if you've got tablets telling us stuff that we wouldn't have a clue about, then either we had miraculous knowledge just so happens thousands of years ago, or the Anunnaki were here, they wrote it down, we then found it, and later on we concluded it was correct. So yeah. Merle has wrote white in colour. I'm guessing you're referring to the Anunnaki. Well, they just said POW, but I would guess it's white, really. You got to remember their planet doesn't come anywhere near the sun, so not really. I mean, it comes in between Jupiter and Saturn. Sorry, I think it is. So they're way out there. From the point of view of skin being near the sun, obviously we get sunburnt pale skin, whereas black people technically don't. So you can see that they would probably be pale just from a logic point of view, let alone the original texts. Roberts wrote, if Star Trek is real, how did they build such a big spaceship? If Star Trek is real. Not sure what you mean by if Star Trek is real. Are you referring to the Anunnaki? How did they build a big spaceship? Same way that we would be building a big spaceship. If Earth had a catastrophe that's coming and we didn't have the greedy elites that's in power at the moment, then the whole of the planet would come together and create a spaceship. We would all use our resources free of charge and create a spaceship, and that's what they, I'm guessing, would have done on Nibiru. But going back to Star Trek, obviously you probably know Star Trek. I would have said, I'm trying to remember the dockyard that they used for the Enterprise. I had it there on the tip of my tongue. It was where no, I'm trying to be quick because obviously other people might not be interested in Star Trek. I knew the name of it. It's gone now. Sorry. Zbugs wrote to Merlin, it's not blacks, that's merely an amount of melanin in their skin, which again I would say would have come from the Neanderthals. So if you look at the our science version of Neanderthals and Homo erectus, they all seem to think is slightly more powerful than the Neanderthal. So again, another reason why I think Neanderthals were the ones that was genetically modified. X-Laurers wrote a lot of animal DNA manipulation in India, temple carvings. Yes, and they did it again. They was doing it all over the place. Greece, Egypt, just trying to think of other places actually. Mesopotamia, obviously. There's also, just bear in mind for India, depends where in India. The reason why is because there was a nuclear explosion that happened in India, and that's because of the Anunnaki. And some scientists seem to say that the deformities that happen in India, now obviously it could be to do with the water, it could be to do with inbreeding, it could be to do with hygiene, I don't know, I'm not being funny, I'm just saying. But some scientists out there that say that the deformities that happen in India is because of the radiation from such device that was used by the Anunnaki, which is an interesting thought, because obviously you could end up with creatures with two heads or whatever simply because of the radiation. So it may not necessarily all be down to DNA manipulation. Hexborn has wrote, Honestly, skin tones are usually just a result of how your ancestors adapted, which is why I would say the Neanderthals were darker skinned, because they were in Africa, and as we know, Africa was a very hot country, and it is a very hot country. So, whereas the Anunnaki on a planet that's not so hot would have probably had pale skin. Trust the plan. Right. Do you know where the RH bloodlines come from? Well, if you do your homework, and I didn't mean that rude. If you sort of research, you'll find that, lo and behold, it's the Anunnakis, and I'll explain why. One, it's a foreign blood type that is unlike anything else on the planet, and it shouldn't be. When I say unlike, it's no other species has got a blood type that can actually kill a baby in that way. So it's a foreign blood type that shouldn't be in our blood types. Two, it was, by mainstream's calculations, it was 100,000 years ago it was introduced into our collective population. Three, Anunnaki wrote that 100,000 years ago is when they physically bred with the humans that they had created. Four, mainstream say that the RH negative comes from Mesopotamia from 100,000 years ago. Five, you guessed it, Mesopotamia is exactly where the Anunnaki were 100,000 years ago when they bred with the humans. So, I mean, you'd have to be a numpty to say, okay, that's not the Anunnakis then. It's literally a smoking gun, I think. Ex-Laura, I wasn't being funny about you saying you have to be a number. I'm not saying anyone would have to. Once you've got those sort of facts in front of you, then I think it lends itself. Ex-Laura's right, there are a lot of Africans with red hair. Well, funny enough, the giants... so you've got when the Anunnaki had relationships with the... I don't know what to call people... If I get called, do you know why? Because the other day, this is what I grew up. My best mate, I've known him since we were both 4 years old, and his mother's white. His father was so I don't know what to bloody say anymore. His father was dark skinned, and as we grew up in the 70s, if we ever referred to my friend, and himself would refer to himself as half caste. That's what we used to call them. It wasn't a derogatory term, and that was it. So when I did a video the other day, talking about colours of skin and whatnot, I used the word half caste because I don't know any other, I've not had a memo from people saying these are what you can and can't say these days. I just used what I knew as a word, and it never upset my friend, and he used it as well. I had someone that followed me unfollow me and said, I can't believe you used that word, man, or damn, I think he wrote. I was like, what? So now I'm skirting around the issues because of I'm not being sent a list of words that I'm not allowed to say. Do you have a long list of words that you're not allowed to say these days? Him, her, it, this, black, white, pink, green. It's freaking ridiculous. So if I upset anyone, I'm just going to use the word black and white. If that upsets anyone, that's your problem, not mine. I'm sorry. So going back to the question or the point you made with the Africans with red hair. So when the Anunnaki had relationships with the black humans, they produced, as we say, the demigods. We also had the Nephilim, which were the giants. That's the name of basically giants, which were taller than the Anunnaki. And those giants were described as having red hair, 2 rows of teeth, and 6 fingers, which is interesting with the red hair. My dad had black hair, but when he grew a beard, he had red hair. So I'm not sure whether the actual Neanderthals were red because when the ancient texts talk about, as I say, I call them black people because I thought their black was referring to, or the colour red was referring to sort of darker skinned. But maybe, just maybe, they had red hair on there. The Neanderthals were not more like what kind of monkey has red hair? Not a baboon, orangutan. So maybe Neanderthals' hair was red, but skin black. The Anunakis' pale. So when you mix them all together, you end up with possibly red hair growing. So yes, good point, Laura. Thank you. Yeah, kind of makes it interesting. Now I've just thought of that as he was talking. So yeah, no, thank you. That's given me a little thing to look into. Temper's right. I need to know the truth. Are we products of genetic modification? Yes, we are. We have 2 fused chromosomes, which can only be done in a lab. Now, if you look, this is where misinformation comes from. You know those websites that says fact checks? You know they're run by the people that want to give you misinformation. They're not run by independent people. You know, they're not run by the smartest people that would know the answers to those questions, and they're giving up their time to sit there and fact check things and then post it on a website that they've created. No, these are people paid by the elites in a roundabout way to create a website to discourage people from believing in whatever it is that they're debunking. So if you go and look for fused chromosomes in animal world, in other words, animals, you will see, it will say, oh, there's fused chromosomes in horses, there's fused this and that, and or loads of different animals. And I have tried to find the peer-reviewed paper that would have said that, and you can't. All you see is people talking, which you can do on the internet all day long. So I've not come across any evidence other than the humans of proper fused chromosomes. And the fused chromosomes is 23 and 24. We should have had 26. 2 of them were fused, 23 and 24, if my memory serves me. So yes, we are a genetic modification. Of course, if you go back by mainstream, there is a missing link between the hominids and the Homo sapiens sapiens, which is us. There is a missing link. Even science admits there's a missing link. And that's because we jumped from Neanderthals to humans because of the Anunnaki. Merv is right. Hello, everyone. Hello, God. Hello, Clark. Bless you. Seeing as I've got God versus the Anunnaki, for some reason, I don't know why, but my Google, when I asked it my name, it says, have a listen. Hey, Google. It's Google that does that. 419 has wrote you ain't. I don't know what that's referring to. I'll take it that it's hopefully me not upsetting people, and you've wrote no you're not. That'd be cool. Laura's wrote, but that seems back from breeding from European immigrants. And now kind of lost track of where I was on that, forgive me. Hex has wrote that Anakin, ? I haven't seen the new Star Wars Obi-Wan yet. The new series. The Anakin, I'm not sure what that is. That's something that I've not come across, so forgive me for that. Rubens wrote, so yeah, I'm doing a comparison to the Bible of who they really were talking about. Cool. If you want any help, any help at all, even publicising, I was first thinking of, if you want me to put your video or talk about it on my channel, I'm more than happy to, because I'm sure there's people out there that will be just as interested as I am, so I'll be very interested to see that. Just scrolling down, Celtics wrote, where is all the UFOs coming from? Different places, and they always have been. So sort of in a chronological point of view, from my logic and research, Anunnaki, Greys, which the Greys also consist of tall whites, which are the ones that's in control of the Orion Greys. Then you've got the praying mantis, which are the oldest physical, and I say physical race, not like the orbs. They're the oldest physical race that supposedly is out there. Then you've got obviously the Dracos, which are flying around, and then you've got the Pleiadians, which will come in after all of those other ones that I mentioned. So in a chronological order, the Pleiadians would have come, and then the Zetas were probably just before the Pleiadians. It's hard to say because there's no. They're really pretty close in time, because supposedly the Eisenhower treaty that he did with the Tall Whites, prior to that, a week or two prior to that, he met with, now it's either the Nordics or the Pleiadians, and they offered him a way of cleaning the waters, our pollution, blah, blah, blah. In return, we have to get rid of our nukes. And Eisenhower, who actually was in the war as a soldier or commander or something, said, hell no, we're not getting rid of our nukes. You know, there's other countries out there that also have nukes. And also the Pleiadians also offered us enlightenment. In other words, to move on up from where we are now in terms of not spiritual, but in terms of something else that would have raised our vibration. As I say, everything's to do with frequency. Anyway, he said no to that. So, but they were around. So that treaty was in the 50s. And then you've got the Zetas, which were the ones, the first record of them was with Betty and Barney Hill. And why am I forgetting what year that was? 60s, I think it was. Hey, Google. There you go. So I wasn't that far off. WD's wrote, hello all. Hi. Joseph wrote, Dr. E. Ivan Finkel is an absolute treasure. You've obviously, you know of Ivan Finkel. He's bless him. He's a character, isn't he? So those of you that don't know, he is the curator of the Sumerian tablets in the British Museum, and he will happily read out a tablet to you if you go to the museum, and he'll probably bore you more than I will, but he's a great guy. I've not met him myself, but he will read out the tablet and he will tell you things such as Enki, Enlil, etc., which just so happens to be the Anunakki's names, and he's not frightened to do that, but he can't go so far as to say they are aliens, because the British Museum is also known as the Rockefeller Museum, which clearly means the Rockefellers have a huge vested interest in the museum, and if the Rockefellers say no, don't you dare say aliens, then they are not going to say aliens. But yeah, Dr. Ivan Finkel is a real character. I've watched here, you know, and listened to him talking about Sumerian tablets and their writing and stories and stuff. It's you know, that's why I always try and say this is why the title here is God versus Anunnaki, because I can go back to and point to the original text because I have done my homework, but no one will want to challenge me, it seems, because when they talk about God, the only go-to that they've got is the Bible. And when you realise, as you know, Joseph, that the Bible is a copy of those same tablets that he's got in the British Museum, then Walking Frick has wrote, if what you're saying is true, what's the end game? Are you referring to the elites then the end game for the elites is less population here on Earth, new great reset, adding technology into people, and a scoring system that will force you not to be able to buy something if the AI. And I heard this back in the 80s. I hate talking about it because it's literally coming true. Back in the 80s, when I had a ZX Spectrum, yes, I was still doing this research back then, but I heard from clairvoyants and from remote viewers that our future is going to end up people in camps, and I'm not on about holiday camps, you can probably guess what type of camps, and after that period of badness where the population gets cut down, they said that it will be a period then of AI. In other words, a computer will determine whether or not you should be allowed in that building, whether you should be allowed to buy whatever. In other words, and back then, when I heard that, I was thinking, yeah, right, artificial intelligence, yeah, right. We can just about play games without what they call colour clash back on the ZX Spectrum. There is no way we're going to have AI. Certainly not in my lifetime, but lo and behold, I'm sitting here talking to Google, who is going to watch a film with me tonight, aren't you, love? She's not. She never does. Sorry, bad joke. Hexborn has wrote, do you realise that they just want you to think it's the original? You do realise that they just want you to think that it's the original. Are you referring to the original, the Sumerian cuneiform tablets with what they call a patina on them? So if you're saying that the hundreds of thousands of these tablets, and literally there is hundreds of thousands of these tablets, are not the original, and they've weathered them and stuck them and hid them in places that hope that someone will then find them, and they've hid the original ones, or they took the original ones, hid them, and instead of just hiding them and saying we haven't got any, they decided to make up ones in the place of the originals, but just so happen still talk about Enki and Enlil and the flood and the tsunami and everything else that would have been in the original. And I say would have been in the original simply because the evidence we have of the flood around the world. So, other cultures even talk about the flood or tsunami. So they would have had to have been doctored. And you also got to remember that these tablets were found 1700s, the cuneiform ones. So back then, America wasn't exactly the powerhouse that it is now. So someone back then would have said, hey, everybody, as soon as you find one of these tablets, let's just hide it, even though we can't read it at the moment, because it's probably not original. Or we'll make a fake one and we'll knock up. Someone's got to learn this language first. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense if that's what you was referring to. Sorry. Lisa's right. I love the story of the Anunnaki. Yes, the Bible does copy many parts of it. The majority of it. Yes, it does. It tried. The Bible tried. Bam has wrote, where does our negative blood type originate from? Hopefully you heard me earlier. It is the Anunnakis. Categorically, it's the Anunnakis. Watch my videos. I do go on about the Basque people and stuff like that. If you're interested more in the RH negative side of it. But yeah, it is the Anunnakis. Joanne, sorry if I'm skirting. It's just because I already mentioned it earlier. Joanne has wrote, what this man is saying is very true. I've researched enough religion to know this is true. Thank you, Joanne. It's warms the cockles of my heart to hear people that actually have took the time to research. Because I know there's people out there that sort of just come out and say BS if they don't know something, but you've obviously took the time and you've made your own conclusions up, and I'm sure you'd tell me if you thought I was being wrong. So that's great. X-Laurers wrote, writing that say the moon just showed up one day. There is no such writing. I've looked into, yeah, I've heard that as well. So you have to work from a logic point of view, and this is how I think I do quite well in this. Sounds big-headed, but you know, this is the only thing I have is logic. That's thanks to Spock many years ago. But basically, if you take the logic in, so we have tides. Now, either the tides are tied to the moon or they're not. It's just a coincidence. Then you've also got the fact that medically, people, when there's a full moon, medically, people, statistically, and you can actually go and look this up if you want to, statistically, more people go to the hospital with headaches, etc., from a full moon. Now, is that because the moon has gravity, in which case it's causing an effect on the water in our bodies, which is what a lot of scientists or researchers say. Now, if the moon wasn't there and it wasn't, it was the cause of the oceans moving backwards and forwards and tides, etc., then the chances of the life starting, if we go back that far, would have been virtually non-existent unless it came from another planet. And the reason for that is because if nothing's moving, then nothing's going to bump into something. In other words, you're not going to have a chemical reaction to something. If one part of a chemical's over there and I'm sitting over here, this other part is sitting here, they're not going to bump into each other. But in an ocean environment, which is why scientists believe we come from the ocean, makes a lot of sense, because if things are moving, then eventually chemicals will bash into each other. So that's one side of it. The second side is the Anunnaki came here, and it's written in tablets, and it explains how the moon got here. Now, you can either say that the tablets are wrong, even though they actually talk about other planets that we didn't know about until 100 to 200 years after. So either it was a magical guess or those tablets are correct. And in which case they actually describe how the moon got here, and it was because of a planet getting smashed into by their own planet's moons, smashed into a planet called Tiamat, which created Earth, the moon, and the asteroid belt, which just so happens all three of those, according to our scientists, are made up of the same material. Interestingly. So either these old texts are just amazing good guesses, or they're correct. In which case, if they're correct, then where you write, there's writing saying the moon just showed up one day, that wouldn't be the case, because there would be no humans around to say it suddenly appeared. Do you get what I'm saying? If you go by the original texts, Earth wasn't even, formed until the same time the moon was formed. So there was no humans on Earth, and so there would have been no one to witness the moon. But even if you just go along separately from that and think, okay, forget the Umaralish, the original text, let's go along with some other texts where the Anunnaki come to Earth for the first time 450,000 years ago, they see the moon. They describe it. They even name it. Luma. Someone will probably correct me on this. Luma. You have to be very careful because the name for Mars is also very similar. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. So many foreign names. I'm, as you probably know, if you've listened to me enough, you know I struggle with pronunciations in the first of. But they actually talk about the moon, seeing it when they come to Earth. So there's one thing. So they're already, the moon is already here. But again, if you discount the actual texts, then go by humans would have had to have been here and conscious and sentient and smart enough to have deciphered that there was no moon, and then suddenly there was a moon, for them to write that down. And I would love to see the documentation that says that there was no moon and then there was moon, that's not off the internet, off of an original document. And when I say original document, I'm on about Babylonian, Aramaic, Akkadian, Syrian, anything that's older than the internet. I would love to see that writing. Even hieroglyphics, anything like that, be great. But you will, and forgive me, I'm not knocking you, but you will not come across that writing. You will not. Walking has wrote, what's the end game? And though in the book of Revelation, same thing as what I said earlier. That's the end game in my opinion. Joanne's wrote, the Pictish carvings were here long before the Bible ever became a book that someone wrote. Correct. Yes. Yeah, that's why I put this title, simply because, as you know, we've got the evidence behind us, with the patinas, with the dating, with the buildings that's been built over the buildings that were flooded. Literally, the Anunnaki say we had to rebuild over the same locations. And Jericho was one of those locations. And I think it was about 2 years ago, the archaeologists have actually come out and said, hey, there's a whole city underneath this city. And I was like, yeah, I knew that. All they had to do was do a bit of research. They would have known that. And, pretty much the whole of Mesopotamia's got cities underneath the cities that's there now in Iraq and Iran, etc., which is why I think Saddam Hussein found some tech that was probably buried because of the tsunami, and went a bit funny, and he started putting posters up saying he's the next god, pretty much, words to that effect, and big posters on buildings and all sorts of stuff. And that's when the military decided to go in, because they thought, hang on a minute, he has Anunnaki tech. Now, they may have thought he may have had one of those new nukes or whatever, I don't know, or a Stargate, as some people say. But the military then went in with the old weapons of mass that they never could find, just so happens, but they still took Saddam Hussein out. And there are stories of their military, American military, digging up things. And obviously we know they went into the Baghdad Museum and destroyed all the Sumerian, yes, just so happens the Anunnakis, original. They left the fake ones, according to the curator of the Baghdad Museum, supposedly it was a faction. I don't want to say the name. Supposedly it was a group of people back then. Starts with I, ends with S. And there's photographs of them posing as they smash up these artifacts. But the people in that time that saw that happening said this was a controlled military operation. They knew what ones to smash up. Just so happens they had someone there taking photographs of them smashing it up. So in other words, to make everyone believe it was this particular group instead of military. And they had headpieces on underneath these scarves and whatever else they were wearing. They had military headpieces. In other words, they were communicating with one another, which wasn't a band of... yeah, you get what I'm saying. Flurg has wrote... I can't even pronounce English, and you've wrote something, I'm guessing German. Kann Liedersing English. I have no idea what that is. I'm so sorry. But there's a little wink there, so it's probably saying that I'm terrible at pronunciations in the first place, probably. Joanne's wrote, the Bible is just a book some fella wrote, and it's been changed so many times for money. Greed, yeah. Greed is the biggest problem we have. R.P. Fishing has wrote, just join it, always great knowledge. Anunaki were gods. They created us. Yeah, I mean, if you actually read the actual text, they never ever once called themselves gods. They were leaders, supreme leaders. They were in charge. They had... It was us that called them gods. And we changed their Elohim to the word God. So in other words, if me and you went off right now to a distant planet where there was primitive people, and we landed and we had guns and lights and technology and spaceships and everything, and these primitive people were looking at us going, wow. And we said, we are humans. My name is Al, through history, and this person is called RP Fishing, but we are humans. They would go, oh, how the humans. And over a few thousand years, that humans would basically become gods. And that's what's happened with the word Elohim. Unfortunately, we ended up translating their race name into a deity type thing. And so they never called themselves gods because they knew there was one true God, or one true, as they call it, one true creator of everything, which I'm guessing they would look as a god because they did actually call planets deities as well. So if you're going to call anything a god, they would have called the planets gods. So I don't think they would have ever wanted to be attributed as themselves as a god. But later on, as you read through the Egyptians, etc., especially with Marduk, where he started to change various things and added himself post-tense back as if he was the one that killed Tiamat, the planet. Now, whether or not that was him telling the hieroglyphics to write that story, or whether or not it was a story that someone done for him, so to make him sound bigger and better, or I'm not sure, but they technically wasn't gods in any shape or form, and of course, Stargate portrayed them as false gods, which if we want to go along, we can say that. Joanne's wrote "Church is money," yeah, spot on. Joanne's then wrote, "We should teach realistic things in school. Bible studies in schools are full of lies." Yeah, they don't. We're never going to get taught the things that we actually need to know, which is why I personally think myself, I left school with zero qualification. I didn't even do exams or anything. Couldn't do the alphabet. My writing was atrocious and my spelling was appalling. And as you can tell, my pronunciations of things is disgusting. I was in special needs, and that's, I think, because as you clearly can see, I'm interested in subjects. But when they're telling you crap about Henry VIII, and Joan of Arc and 1066 and things, and they didn't put them in a chronological order, which I really need things in a logical order. It just confused the hell out of me, and I think they could do so much better, but they're never going to do that. Joanne's right, I've got COVID and look like shit. Laugh out loud. Hopefully you get over it. I mean, now bearing in mind, in my opinion, it is just a man-made version of the flu that's been ramped up a bit. And I had that just before Christmas, and my taste buds went. And my friends also had the same thing, but so fingers crossed you get through that. Oh, yawning again. Oh, it's me using my brain, making me tired. X-Law has wrote, "The house of God has many mansions." I think that's the quotes. They actually talk about those mansions in the ancient texts and how they built marvelous structures. I think the Ziggurat of Ur was one of them that they built for King Anu when he came down the last time, and then they gave it to Iana. Merle has wrote, "But the original cannot be trusted. Who can translate with 100% accuracy?" If you're referring to the Anunnaki text, I agree with you that it's a difficult language to translate. If you've heard me talk, I explain how one word can mean up to 6 different things. So obviously if you start reading and you pick the wrong one, then the next word that also could mean up to 6 different things could also be wrong. The benefit we have is from the translations is evidence of the locations that they went to. We have gold mines in Africa, ancient gold mines, and yes, we do. There are many stories of miners out there, human miners, modern times, digging, and coming across a tunnel that was already been there, that had already mined gold, ancient tunnels. So we've got evidence of that, so we know that they came for gold. So we can start to ascertain various things. The chariots obviously would have been crafts, so we know that that would have been the correct terminology. Even in Egyptian times. So even if you get the Sumerian wrong, they're talking about sky boats and things like that. And then we've got the Bible. We can base that off of. So even if our translations of those tablets are wrong, then you can go back to the Bible from other people, bearing in mind it was a copy of a copy of a copy of them, and then sort of say, okay, well, that's what they were referring to. If you got stuck translating it, for example, then you've got the buildings that they actually talked about in the locations that they talked about, and then you've got the carvings of them as well with their descriptions that they talk about. So there may be one or two words wrong. I mean, there are different translations. There are different people out there. There's 200 people when Zechariah Sitchin translated a lot of the tablets back in the 70s. There was 200 people that was also translating them. Believe it or not, none of those have come forward and said Zechariah Sitchin was wrong, because they all pretty much agreed with Zechariah Sitchin. However, there is some possibilities that, as I say, the name for Noah on the tablet in the British Museum, forgive me, I can't remember the name. It's a funny name. It's not Astrahasis, but it sounds very similar to that. And then the Zechariah Sitchin's version of the name for Noah is something slightly different. So that's because, again, you've got these letters and words that can actually mean different things. So I hear what you're saying, but I would still go with the tablets over, seeing as the tablets talked about planets that we didn't know. So even if the translations were wrong, the people that translated it was really lucky. It just so happens that those planets that they were talking about and the asteroid belt, etc., as we found out 100 to 200 years later, was actually there. So they did a great job, I think, in translating, in my opinion. Joanne's wrote, I believe in a goddess, the sisters Morrigan, who I worship. Okay. I'm interested to know why you would worship. I'm not knocking you, I'm just asking. Calamities wrote, wow, 6:02 a.m, so early. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Calamity. Calamity's from Hawaii, which I think is a fascinating place, simply because when it was formed, forgive me, you probably know better than me, but I think it was approximately 200,000 years ago from a volcanic eruption. The plants and trees and everything were all different from everywhere else, which either means it was evolution, or God came back, saw there was an empty bit of land and thought, you know what, I'm going to stick some new stuff there. So that's why I love Hawaii, for that reason alone. I just can't help but think God stands there going, you know what, I think I'm going to stick some new creatures. Andrews wrote, we are the awakening, we are the Anunnaki coming to the people who are woke. And then Alien has wrote, is Armageddon mentioned in the original tablets? No, they talk. So the original tablets pretty much end, and when I say tablets, it went from clay tablets to papyrus, and then it went from obviously Sumerian in clay tablets and in papyrus. Then it went to Babylonian and Aramaic, and then Akkadian and stuff. So it wasn't always just one particular type of text, but. No, so I'm not 100% sure where the last, the Revelations got their information from, about sort of end of days and stuff. I know Zechariah Sitchin does talk about end of days. He's got a YouTube video, or a video that's on YouTube of him talking of end of days. So you might want to have a look at that. Joanne's right, I'm very aware of what you're talking about, but I chose to worship the Morrigan. Okay, no problem. As I said at the beginning, I don't know if you was here, but at the beginning I said my mum wants to still believe in a one almighty being that's going to look after her when she passes. And if that gives her comfort, then that's, who am I to stop that? Celtic has wrote, do you know who built the Pumapunku? Yes, I do. I'm trying to go around in these videos, different locations and stuff, and I like to try and keep something for people, because I put little trailers out every now and then of things that sort of says, oh, later on you're going to find out, just to get people to want to watch. And of course, if I start saying the Incas, the Pumapunkus, the Mayans and stuff, I have mentioned who the Mayans were on some of my lives, but I haven't done the videos of them. So it's a way of you keep following me. Sorry, don't hate me. Human Porches wrote, what's up with the hybrids? Sorry, one sec. What's up, Clark? My boys just walked in.
Hungry.
You hungry?
Yeah.
All right, I'll try and be as quick as I can then. Okay?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you up to? That's empty.
Ah.
So I'll put dinner on in a sec.
I'll put it away for you.
Okay, you can have two.
Thank you.
All right. What's up with the hybrids? What hybrids are you referring to? The Greys and humans, or the Anunnakis and the humans? Not sure which one you're referring to. Park Life has wrote, if we believe we are alone, it's a delusion. There are definitely other life forms just undiscovered right now. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you obviously know how big the universe is. And the people that's been abducted, the millions, literally millions that have been abducted, will tell you that we're not alone by aliens. Merle has wrote, some shows that show what's happening, Avatar, Stargate series, the event, etc. Yeah, I totally agree with you. As a filmmaker myself, I do try and put little snippets of things in films. I did a film, it's on Amazon at the moment. I directed it and I wrote the story. Well, someone else wrote the story originally, the screenplay, and then I tweaked it quite a lot. I didn't like their version. And in that film, I have a little character, a little girl. So basically, how do I put this? I'm trying to avoid telling you the title of it. So this character's, how do I say this? This character, a man, it's going to sound creepy now. A man walks in to this arcade area, and there's this girl on this motorbike, young girl, I think she's about 13, and she says, oh, I saw you doing something earlier, because he's there for a reason. And he goes, yeah. And she goes, oh, can you do me a favour and help I want a new machine for the arcade. She works in the arcades. Mum owns the location. Sorry if I'm boring you. And basically, they got chatting, and she says to him that she feels like she's been abducted by little grey aliens. Anyway, Mum walks in, and she says, Mum, here's the guy that's come to do the blah, blah, blah in this area. And he thinks, he also agrees with me that there's aliens. And her mum goes, don't be stupid, and really knocks her down. But I put throughout the whole film that literally, as you keep watching it, you realise that she was actually genuinely telling the truth in the film, that she was abducted, but her mum just kept saying, don't be stupid, don't be stupid. So even I've done that in movies. Park Life is right. I also think we shouldn't rely on ancient transcripts. There is too much to discover out there. Like I said, I've already sort of covered that with someone else saying that. Sven has wrote, do you mean star people? I'm obviously behind on the questions. I'm not sure what I was referring to at that point. If it's the Anunnaki, then they're not really star. I mean, I don't know who come up with the word star people. I mean, there's a thing called star seeds, so I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Joanne's wrote, Pictish, so many things before the Bible. Yes. In Hidden Company, what's your thoughts on spirits and ghosts? Quite a lot, actually. I'll be as brief as I can. I've done videos. So if anyone's listening, there's 800 videos on my TikTok channel. I've got a website called OurTrueHistory.com. .co.uk. Sorry, I was just watching my boy there doing something. OurTrueHistory.co.uk. The videos are there, and they're also on YouTube if you want to watch them. Our True History. Spirits. Yeah, I've looked into that so much. Bottom line is, I'm just going to be very brief because I see there's 99 messages and my boy wants some dinner. The Anunakki. Sorry, I'm just watching him. Right, are you going in your room? I'll make you dinner in a minute.
Maybe we could put something in the bread.
No, you're not having a sandwich. Go.
No, that's silly.
No, I'll make you proper dinner in a minute.
We could put some bread in there.
Okay.
All
right, I'll sort something out. I'll sort something out in a minute.
I love you.
I love you too. Sorry about that. Okay, so with spirits, there's an entity that dates back from when the universe was created, and you're going to say, how the hell do I know that? It's written in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, whether or not you believe that, it's up to you, but that's where it's written. So these energy orbs were created at that point. They join with us 3 to 4 months in the womb. They join in our pineal gland. Long story about the pineal gland, but then when we die, we are now a hard drive copy. We are connected to that. We leave our body as us, even though it's not our orb, but we are now connected with that. We go around, do things, float around, whatever. And then eventually we cross over again to a second plane of existence, and that's it. No clairvoyant medium can contact you once you've crossed over to that plane again. And then that orb takes control back and repeats back round and goes in someone else. And now your memory is now inside someone else, inside that orb. And all it's doing is learning. Again, not only me saying that, not only clairvoyance saying that, but the Emerald Tablets of Thoth say that. So, yeah. Celtics wrote, who were the Watchers? They were the Aigi. The Aigi actually translates as watching something. So somehow someone translated it as the Watchers. But so basically, the King Anu gave names to the Anunnaki and the Aigi. So the Aigi were the ones on Mars, and the Anunnaki were the ones on Earth. Those that came from heaven, which isn't heaven, wrong translation. Space, those that came from space to Earth. Makes sense. And the Aigi were watching something. I can't remember the exact translation. You can look it up. And they were ended up being the fallen angels, where they came down and had relationships with. And the Aigi are just younger Anunnaki. Park life is, I think evolution exists, but I also think there's some more to what is known. Joanne's right. Honestly, I would, but COVID is stopping me going live with you. Oh, bless you. Vet says, right, what do you think the Anunnaki look like? Well, luckily we've got carvings of them. So if you just type in Anunnaki statue, you will see 8 to 12 foot, braided beards of some description. I don't know whether that's manually braided or whether their actual hair just grew curly like it shows, but pale skin, blue eyes, white hair, 5 fingers, 5 toes, just like us, or as it says in the ancient texts, we were created in their image. Park Class wrote, a creature is deaf viable. Science can't explain everything, can it, mate? A creature is deaf viable. DF viable. I'm not sure what that means. A creature is. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Joanne's right. I mean, I'd go live if I wasn't. Yeah, I guess what you meant. Yeah. Ex-Laura's right. I've seen a few vids on petrified giants. Any thoughts? There's a couple of possibilities. There's calcified and petrified and vitrified. Now, Michael Tellinger, if anyone knows. I'll make it in a minute. Sorry, my boys snuck back in. I will make you say in a minute. Give me 5 minutes.
Oh, wait.
And then I'll watch the new Stranger Things, which I think is out now. Right, okay, you go your room. I'll sort you out in a sec. Yeah, so Michael Tellinger believes, now, if you don't know who he is, please look him up. Excellent researcher, South Africa. I've chatted to him a few times, and his take on it, he's got his own website and channel and stuff, but he's the one that's found out what Adam's calendar is and stuff like that. He's fantastic. I can't praise the guy enough. But he also believes he's found petrified body parts, and he also believes that there's a certain type of lightning that can literally petrify a person or an animal or a living organism of some description, literally within a second, petrifying them. Now, if that's the case, in just using logic, lightning goes, there's a certain type of lightning, but lightning goes to the tallest structure generally. And if you're a giant and there's nothing else around, bearing in mind we didn't have skyscrapers back then, other than the pyramids, you would have probably been the tallest thing around. So if you go along those lines, then I could possibly see it. Now, there are other people out there. I copied someone's video and pasted it myself. I don't like normally doing that, but it was an older TV program talking about a person that was talking about how petrification doesn't have to take thousands and thousands of years. It can actually take 30, 40 years, which is interesting because obviously we've got those. Clark, what are you doing? We've got those petrified things such as a screw that was inside a rock, a hammer or pickaxe that was inside a rock, and mainstream will tell you can't have petrification that quickly, but there was this person that was literally demonstrating in some capacity that's possible. Then you've got the calcification, which is could be mistaken for petrification, where it is an object is calcified. So, for example, there in England there is a place where a witch was, and she wasn't really a witch, but that's a long story. And there's water that drips off this rock, sort of 20 foot up in the air, and people hang teddy bears underneath this rock. You can Google it. There's videos and pictures of it. And where the water on the rock that drops down and goes into a pool underneath, where that drops down and slides down the rope that goes onto the teddy bear, over a period of time, they literally become stone or look like they're stone. So that's an interesting way of looking at things that you don't have to wait millions of years to see. What are you up to, Clark?
Put everything away.
Thank you. Crofties wrote, have you read the Adam and Eve story by Chan Thomas? No, I generally don't read other people's works if I can help it, simply because we actually have the original tablets. So whatever that person's talking about, he or she is either copying the original tablets, which I'm already fully aware of, or they're going off of something else, Bible, guessing, whatever, in which case I'm not interested. So that's why I don't read other people's work if I can help it, because that's why what I say I can back up, because I can go point to the correct ancient tablets, etc. Andrews wrote, do you think we will be back to see how we've evolved? Do you think we will be back to see how we evolved? Do you mean in spiritual terms? No, because once you die and you cross over again, you are gone. You are just a memory in that hard drive orb. If you mean time travel, then whistleblowers have said that we're already doing time travel, so we already kind of know what's going to happen in the future, possibly. Sven has wrote, Eve was not Adam's first wife, it was Lilith. Yeah, so, well, technically there's two Adam and Eves. You've got the first Adam and Eve over in Africa, and then you've got the Adam and Eve, which was Enki's son and daughter, which was Adipa and was it Lilith? I can't remember. Oh, my brain's gone now. Sorry, my boy's distracting me. What are you up to? Ah, sorry about this. That's what happens when you have a life as well. Park Lice wrote, wonder how the truth could seem if everyone didn't put their own twist on it. Yeah. Vestas wrote, was Colossus of Rhodes Anunakki? I'm going through Greece right now on my videos. I've got loads in my drafts. Please bear with me. You will get your answer in the videos. It's a way of keeping people to watch, because if I told everything on live chats, no one would ever want to watch my videos. Lee Barrett's wrote, everyone involved. Not sure what that's referring to. Well done, Clark. I will make you something in a minute, Clark.
Okay, I love you.
I love you too, Clark. Truth has wrote, the corrupt family has their hands on everything. Yeah. Lee's wrote water too for cars. I'm guessing that's going back to where I was talking about the Anunnaki creating water power craft. X Laura's wrote, why a lot of Tesla's work went missing. Nicholas Tesla, not Elon Musk Tesla's. Yeah, I mean we know. Rogers wrote, military also dumped a lot of giant skeletons. A military whistleblower told on his deathbed. Park Life has wrote, too many people get rich from hiding truth. A lot of money. Yeah. Crofties wrote, religion was created to help the belief of demons, so when help comes, it is ignored. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of priests say that demons and hell was created by religious leaders to keep the flock coming back, because if you don't worship them and go to them and hand over money and whatever else, you will go to hell. So it's a great way of keeping people controlled. Joanne's wrote, I studied a paper on feminist aspects of religion. All religions belittle women, do they? That's a horrible thing, because personally, I probably going to get hated here, but personally, I think women should be running the countries and the planet. Just because of men, I know what men are like. I'm sadly a man, and I identify as a man, and I have ego. I have all that same stuff that men seem to have. Crofters wrote, the Gregorian. Sorry, I was expecting it to be the George's Guide stands there for a second. The Gregorian calendar has allowed for confusion. Lisa's wrote, religion today is used as a form of control. Spot on. Nutrition Facts has wrote, hi, I am a Christian. Evil spirits are real. Be careful, they could deceive you. I agree with you. I don't think the spirits have anything to do with the almighty being that's written in the Bible. I know you can say the Son, the Spirit, and the Holy Ghost, but you've got to remember that information would have come from prior to the Bible, such as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But yes, I do agree there are evil spirits out there, and I'm not just talking about dead people as ghosts that are evil. I'm talking about things like the jinn, which would be classed as evil. Bear Chicken, we are souls having a human experience. We are higher beings, but we are not ready for that. See, I don't agree with that. I think the energy orbs are just used as containers, and I say the word containers because that is exactly what the Greys have told abductees we are. We are just containers for those souls, spirits, souls, whatever you want to call them, energy orbs. So where you say we are souls having a human experience, technically we are the humans, and the souls the spirits having a human experience because they join with us, but we we don't come back round. We come back round as a memory in that orb in someone else, but we don't come back round. So we have one life. Let's make it a good one, I guess. Crofties wrote many books written on catastrophe and cycles. All the old texts are the same story. Well, interestingly, when Nibiru comes around every 3,600 years, if you do your calculations correct, you'll come across a cataclysmic event. Not all the time, because it depends where we are in relation to where Nibiru is as it comes around in its orbit. But yeah, it just so happens that you can do the math and work out when the problems were. Joanne's wrote, I absolutely agree. Religion is used as control. It causes wars. Yeah, I mean, you probably can guess this, but there are statistics that the most people have died for any reason is religion on this planet. That it's just people died because of someone's belief in something. And it's just wrong. It's wrong, especially the fact that it's wrong in the first place, the religion, in my opinion. Bear Chickens wrote, being God is boring. When you have make and have everything, nothing has meaning. You make a really good point there, because this is the way I see the orbs, the spirits, the orbs, whatever you want to call them. They live eternally. So not only clairvoyants say that, but the Emerald Tablets of Thoth say that they're eternal. And if you're eternal, just as you said, it's boring. So when people die and they say, oh, I feel so much love over there. Yeah, but after a year, 2 years, 10 years, 1,000 years, that love becomes normal. You have to have good and bad. Otherwise, all good will eventually become just the norm. And that's why I think they join with us. They also join with us if you I done a video on my Patreon page. Those advert time, those of you that's interested in longer videos than my TikTok ones, talking about things that I've not spoken about before, feel free to go on Patreon and have a look there. But I did one this morning going through a bit more of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and how the spirits, the energy orbs, need to learn for them to be able to move on to the next plane. And they actually do have the words plane. They don't use the word plane of existence, but they have light planes and different planes. So it's actually a good video because it talks about dimensions as well. So if anyone's interested, it's on my Patreon page. Beers wrote, we are here for the challenge and hard times. It helps us grow as a soul. The soul, it does, yes. Lee Barrett wrote, that's just crazy. I am so far behind. I have no idea what you just wrote. But if you've wrote, that's just crazy, because I said, I'm trying to think of something funny here. I am a god. And then you wrote, that's just crazy. I don't know what I said that made you say that. I was trying to think of something funny, and that's why I should never do 2 shows a night. Just scrolling down. Susie's joined. Hi, Susie. Yeah, it's a funny one tonight. I was trying to go with the trying to do the take on the video that I put up this morning, where it's only early stages, but I offered someone the chance to do a live chat with me. Not necessarily today, but down the line, a physical live voice-to-voice chat where I would debate with them about God and the Anunakki. And I have a feeling that I'm probably not going to get any people wanting to take me up on that, which is a shame, because I'm interested to see their points of view as well. Andrew wrote, Enki, Lord of the World. Technically, Enlil was. But if you go by who was smarter, Enki. You got 2 has wrote, first time I heard someone say Anunaki, it was like I had something wake up in me. Oh, okay. Those from heaven, or space as it should be called, that came to Earth. That's interesting. Veritas has wrote, are you confusing God? Are you hang on, let me get this right. Are you confusing God, which is faith, and Anunakki, which is ancient history? I don't think I really generally talk about faith. The only times I do is when I say I don't think, if you listened earlier, I don't think anyone worshipped the Anunnaki as gods. That would have been the closest to faith. But I think this probably live chat here is probably the first time I've ever used the word faith. So no, I don't think I am confusing faith with ancient history. Sven has wrote, Native Americans talked of star people, not of Jesus from the Bible. Those star people, right? Okay, yeah. Sorry, my brain went when you said star people. I was thinking of star seeds. Yeah, I mean there was even a film, wasn't there, called Starman? But yeah, I mean the Hopi Indians talked about star people. I think the Navajos possibly did. Just trying to remember. So yeah, they did, yeah. But also the Hopis called the ones that they were dealing with was the ant people. Just scrolling down. Crofters wrote, a catastrophe in cycles always comes. Joanna's wrote, we have the ability to see the future. Do you know, interestingly, the Anunnaki do talk about seeing the future. A few of them did different times. Adam's wife, I can't remember. Now I've got Lilith in my head, and for some reason I don't think it was Lilith. I think it was, now I can't remember the name of it. I've said it many a times. I just now I think Lilith has thrown me off. I can't remember it, but she had a premonition. Enlil had a premonition. Dumuzi had a premonition. So yeah, people, and that's just those, let alone ancient Egyptians having premonitions and so on. So yeah, there is people out there that have. Lisa wrote Moses parted the sea. Yeah, I was reading what someone else wrote, and then I remembered it wasn't Jesus that parted. And hopefully you heard me say that to show that I have done my research a little bit. Grey-eyed Wolf has wrote, ancient religion prophesied Jesus, which predated the Bible, such as only because there's 99 messages. I was going to go into one there, and it's 6:40 and my boys wanting dinner, so I'm just going to whiz on. But okay, I'll just read that one out for you then. Sven is about, tell me about Moses' book 6 to 7. That's very broad. It's like saying talk about Anunakki. That's a bit too broad, seeing as there's still 99 people there. I don't know what you kind of want me to sort of say. Sorry. Walkin has wrote, this guy is just a rookie conspiracy theorists. Are you, guess you're talking about me? It's no problem if you are, if you think that, no worries. Park Life has wrote, I believe humans are just one part of a massive plan. Trial and error. If something doesn't work, then you race and start over. I'm just reading out things until it's a question. Crofters wrote, Worlds in Collision by Emmanuel Velosfsky is a good read. Okay, that sounds interesting actually. Park Life wrote, if we carry on destroying our planet, something bigger will intervene and take control. And then Lisa's wrote to Walking, who had said, this guy's a rookie. Lisa's replied, no, he isn't. He talks sense, not spewing Bible crap. that was Lisa saying that. Thank you, Lisa. And then Lee has also replied to Walken and wrote, but speaking the truth, not everything is a conspiracy. Grey-eyed Grey-eyed Wolf, thank you, by the way, Lee. Grey-eyed Wolf has wrote, do not think the religion's beliefs and aliens' beliefs are one of the same thing, just a different name. So the only religion I'm aware of well, it's not really even a religion, for the grey aliens. This is the only one I'm aware of, so that's why I said grey. I'm really referring to, I think, the Zetas, and that would be that there is a creator of everything, stroke. The source is another name they've used, and creation is another name they've used. So for them, that is their go-to thing. But I don't know about religions. I don't think, just from my own research, I don't think they have religions, but I might be wrong. Bearing in mind, when the Anunakki were here, first there was no religions, and then it wasn't till way down the line, Abraham with his first religion, where he knocked it up, and then other people started following suits, and now we have 4,000 religions. So which one is correct, if any? Just scrolling down to questions. Joanne's wrote, I believe in a godness. I'm guessing that's, sorry, goodness. I believe in a goodness. I'm guessing that's goddess. I get signs. I asked all Bible believing people, do you get signs? Now you do, from my point of view, spirits. So I don't personally believe there is an almighty being that done all the things that the Bible said. It just doesn't make sense. But spirits do communicate with you. So I think a lot of people, where, for example, they've been helped for whatever reason, they was just about to fall asleep at the wheel, and suddenly they hear a voice, and they wake up and suddenly see they was about to crash, for example. That happens a lot. People mistake that, in my opinion, don't hate me, that spirit, which is an energy orb that doesn't want you to die because it's here for a reason, people mistake that as God saved me, God's a miracle, God this, God that. And I think, we've got evidence of spirits. If you go to a clairvoyant, a good one, and they tell you stuff that only you know, either she's reading your mind or there are spirits. You take the pick. And when they do it and there's loads of clairvoyants and they pull out things that only you would know about, then you have to say, okay, there is spirits. But with an almighty being, zero, zilch, nada evidence. So I would always go with, if you had a miraculous, whatever it is, experience in any shape or form, I would go with the spirits, because we've got enough evidence, in my opinion. I mean, glasses flying off, Ouija boards, spirit boxes, voices talking, all sorts of evidence for ghosts. It even goes back to Sumerian times. They actually write about ghosts. And Egyptian times. And so, yeah, later Sumerian times. I'm not on about Anunaki times. I'm on about Sumerian times, which also run concurrent with Egypt. A lot of people just think it was Sumerian, then it was this, then it was that. No, they run concurrent, which is why there's so many wars. So I think that's, so in my opinion, where someone will get a sign for whatever reason, they attribute it to an almighty being. And that's why people say there is one, but in my opinion, it's not. It's a light energy being that's helping you in some way. Just scrolling down. Potterless wrote, there must be other planets supporting life. The proof is there, just hidden. Well, there's a thing called Project Serpo. I don't know if you're aware of it. And basically, if you remember the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where American personnel went up in the craft at the end of the movie, that was based on a real event called Project Serpo, and it was to do with the Zeta Reticuli, and 13 American personnel. They weren't all astronauts. Some of them were physicists and stuff like that. They went up to spend, I think it was 8 years on their home planet, which was called Serpo. Now they actually have 2 planets, the Zetas. But so yes, there is evidence. In fact, 1 personnel died on the way, and 2 refused to come back to Earth. Walking Frick has wrote to Lee. This was the person, Walking was the person that said I'm a rookie, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Words to that effect. He's now replied to Lee, who sort of said in my defence that I do know what I'm talking about. So this is the reply back from Walking. Just because he's so sure about it doesn't make it truth. In other words, because I'm talking about stuff as if I know what I'm talking about doesn't make it true. Marcom, and just to sort of, I know you're just wondering why I won't reply to that. Just to make it, everything that I say can be pretty checked out. I mean, you can go to Clairvoyance, you can go and look up Project Serpo, you can go and look up the ancient tablets. So if you think either I'm mistaken or I'm lying, if I'm lying, I'm damn good at it and I'm proud of myself. Or if I'm mistaken, then it's not just me, it's hundreds of other people out there that have done their research as well. And so even if you say, okay, is everything that I'm saying wrong? I'll be interested to know your thoughts on that. Are you saying that absolutely everything that I've said is complete crap? I'll be interested to know your thoughts on that. Markham has wrote, it will drive you crazy thinking about the possibilities. I'm not sure what that was referring to, sorry. Joanne's wrote, research and education teaches it's not a case of we don't know anything. Bamma has wrote, do you have any videos on RH negative origin? Yes, I do. Don't ask me what video number they are. I also have a live chat with a lady that is an expert. It's an hour-long chat. It's on my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Go to podcasts, look for the one that says RH negative, and she is phenomenal, but more so from a sort of modern point of view. My videos talk about, and she actually agrees with me, my side is from the videos, if you watch them, will show you that the RH negative come from the Anunakki in Mesopotamia 100,000 years ago, all backed up by mainstream scientists. Not all backed up. The Anunnaki part they haven't backed up, but everything else they've backed up. But when I say backed up, I'm referring to the ancient texts that also add credence to that. That talk about that at the same time. Part of life, sit and look into space. It's endless. So are the possibilities. Oh, sorry. Oh, we can't be alone. Sven has wrote, this Earth has been resetted for many times, and it will do so soon. Just scrolling down. Walking has wrote, that's just how humans perceive it, though. It's not a real physical place. So Walking is saying that space, where Park Life was saying, there's got to be more life out there because it's, thousands of millions and billions of planets. Walking is the same person that said I'm talking crap, has said to Park, how that's just how we perceive it, though. It's not real physical place. Interestingly, though, we are physically on, so either we're not physical, which, I'm touching myself right now, not that way, and I can feel myself, so for me it's physical. I'm standing on a planet that's physical, so you're saying everything else out there is not. That's illogical. We can't just be a dot, a planet, with all those other things not being real. So you need to clarify that. And then Park Life has wrote, I think in future we will have the means to expose space. We're getting closer slowly but surely. And then Park Life's wrote to Walking, what's not real physical? Same question I just asked. And then Walking's wrote space. So space isn't real, but we are. So why isn't space real? Why would we just be here? The logic, I'm going to struggle with that one. Crofty's wrote to Walking, in your current experience of meat suit, it's physical. Explorer, one of the first temple complexes in the mountains. I'm so far behind now, forgive me. Park Life wrote to Walking, I gotta disagree. It's just incomprehensible for our brains right now. I would agree with that. Because this will mess your mind up, Walking. Everything's got a top, middle, and two sides. Everything, right down to the smallest atom. I said this to a girl once, and she said, a shoelace doesn't. Everything has a top, two sides, and a bottom. Right down to the smallest thing. So if everything's got a top, two sides, and a bottom, what has the universe got? And that's where our mind goes funny on. Lisa's wrote to Park Life, he seems to have an opinion on everything we are saying closed-minded. Savannah's wrote, Star People will come and get the 1,444 souls and reset the Earth for 10,000 years. Partlust wrote, there's too much info out there, mostly contradicting each other. Joanne says, called them people of colour. I'll try and remember that. If you've listened to my other videos or live chats, the problem I have is when I read something, even if I read it wrong, that is it, it sticks in my brain. And it's very hard, which is also why my spelling is not great, because if I see something once and I read it wrong, I will always write it the wrong way. It's really difficult for me to get out of that. Walkins wrote to Joanne, black isn't a colour, because Joanne had called them people of colour. Laura's wrote, my friend used to say the same. With mum and dad. My God, I'm that far behind. Yeah, that's what we used to call them, wasn't it? And it wasn't something bad. It was just there was no other name for them at that point. So I don't know why I get told off these days. Size has wrote, right, the liberals are just nuts anymore. Right, these liberals are just nuts anymore. I'm not sure what that's referring to. And that's don't know what that means. Referring to liberals simply because I'm from the UK and we don't really use that terminology of liberals. Walkins wrote they're in a cult 100%. In other words, Walkins trying to say that I'm guessing so is Sai then saying that I'm a cult leader because I think outside the box and don't believe mainstream, even though I've proved on many of my videos that mainstream lie. If you watch my videos, I don't know how you're going to dispute that. For example, when that historian said that in Egypt on her TV program that Khufu was buried in the Great Pyramid, and there is zero evidence of Khufu ever being buried in there, so she lied blatantly. But if you think I'm the cult person and those other ones are not, then I've got no hope for you guys. Joanne's wrote, that's me leaving. You're talking about people of colour and monkeys. Nope. Wow. See what I mean? This is what I was talking about earlier. I said when I was just reading or reciting stuff from the Anunnaki text, people go mad. People go mad over me reciting something that's written in ancient texts about colour. And wow. And then she wrote nope with a thumbs down. In other words, saying she was believing everything else I was saying and she was actually agreeing with me. And then when I get to something that doesn't like, I'm now the bad person. This is why this country and this planet is now woke to hell, because you get people getting upset over something. Oh, Jesus, what's the world coming to? What the hell? RP Fishins wrote, were Anunnaki immortal? If so, would they have gave us that gene? No, they're not immortal. They do die. On their planet, it works out. I estimated 900,000 years they would live for, of our years, but on their planet. But there is descriptions of a planet of 1,000,000 years, which literally probably means I was wrong by 100,000 years, in which case it's probably them. So no, they do die. They're not immortal. But to us, they would seem immortal because, in 70 years they wouldn't have aged a blink at all. So they would seem immortal to us. Just scrolling down to questions. Lisa's asked him, walking, why are you having a problem with what's being said? Wassies wrote, know anything about the royal family conspiracies and scandals? I've heard loads, but nothing that I would substantially say is true, in my opinion. Walkins wrote back to Lisa, it's a frustrating subject. I don't have a problem except with that raging liberal. Me, I'm guessing he's talking about. First of all, I have no idea what a liberal is. I'm guessing you're referring to, I'm guessing it's a political party. Because if you're saying that I'm just talking logic, then Spock was a liberal, which was interesting. Fascinating, as Spock would say. But where you're saying raging liberal, clearly you are unhappy with what I'm saying, even though I am pointing to evidence-based things. So this is the problem. Obviously, where my title was God versus Anunaki, logic would determine, and this is why people say I should have been a lawyer or Sherlock Holmes, logic would say that had started you off on the path of trying to knock me down and adding the word raging liberal, whereas I've not actually said anything derogatory about you, would show me that you are upset and therefore you actually probably believe in an almighty being.
WhatsApp.
And do not want me to carry on this kind of conversation where I prove that there is no almighty being in the way that the Bible refers to it. If I'm wrong, forgive me. Ex-Lawyers wrote, when you ask Google, I can't hear, audio shuts off. Okay, I won't do that again then.
WhatsApp. Someone has sent you a WhatsApp.
The answer was Google called me God, which will probably upset walking person. Lisa's then wrote to Walking, what have liberals got to do with it? Yeah, I couldn't get that either. I thought I was being silly, but obviously maybe that person's being a bit. Eddie's wrote, I'm religious and believe in aliens. So the aliens that some people have seen are evil. No, I don't think any. Well, the only ones that we would probably conceive as evil would be the Jinn and the Dracos and possibly the Tranoids. And if you don't know what they are, look up the transcript from Ronald Reagan's briefing. It's on the internet. Back in 1984, where he's briefed about aliens for the first time. Its transcript's been leaked on the internet, and I've read it. Linda Moulton Howe's read it. All the top researchers have read it, and we all agree it's genuine. So now, whether or not those Tranoids back then are the Dracos that we're calling now, we don't know. Maybe it was just a different name. Bearing in mind, back then they called them Ebens instead of Eben 1 and Eben 2, instead of, Orion Greys and Zeta Greys. So terminology changes. So I don't think there's evil per se, other than the Dracos that we would call evil. So the only ones I would say is Walking, the person here on the thingy, evil, and Jinns and Dracos. And then Crofties wrote to Eddie, they are jinns or demons, not aliens. So someone's done their homework. X-Laws wrote, I had a ZX Spectrum 128. Woo! You're showing your age now. I started with the 64 and moved up to the 128, the black keyboard. I went and bought the old rubber keyboard again. I've got like a little memory shelf of old things from a kid, and it doesn't work. I just ordered it off of eBay because I wanted to touch the rubber keys again. But the 128 was the black one that was more modern looking. Walking has wrote to Lisa, that lady that worshipped goddess sisters. RP Fishing has wrote, everything's correct on UFOs in the book. Behold a power horse. I have new information concerning UFOs. Interested to hear. I would be. Crofters wrote, Eddie, some are not the nicest of characters, however, cannot do what others do, different dimensions. RP has wrote, will blow your mind. Talked to a guy who worked for NASA Apollo missions. I would love to hear. Absolutely would love to hear. Walking has wrote, AI won't be tolerated by the universe. The little greys, the Orion Greys, are androids. I don't know if you was aware of that. Probably not, I'm guessing. So I think they probably will. Lisa's wrote to Walken, I'm intrigued, please explain, I don't understand. Walken's wrote back to Lisa, there was a lady here offended by religion and calling black people black. Yeah, that was Joanne, I think it was. Hopefully you're agreeing with me, Walken, that I don't think I tried to be as polite as possible. As I say, my best mate from when I was 4, and he's still, I work with him to the, I'll see him Monday. I work with him, and he's what am I supposed to say? Mixed race, but yeah. So that person got upset because I mentioned the word out. I don't know what they get upset about, but she got upset. Eddie's wrote, the US government Congress just brought up the topic about aliens. You guys know why now. Yeah, Project Bluebeam, I'm guessing you're going down with that line of. Crofties wrote to Eddie, the truth cannot be hidden much longer, a slow drip feed of disclosure. Lisa's wrote to Walken, I did not know that. I love learning new things. Park Life wrote, sorry, but she can't say it's true based on studies or RE. You can't say what you know is fact. I mean, this is my, everything that I say, you've probably heard me say it 100 times on this live chat already. Go do your research. And I always say this is my opinion. But if there is general things out there, such as tablets, they are fact. I'm not going to lie. They're not sitting there. They're not cartoons. They're not, they're not holograms. They are there. So if I say something as a fact, then it is a fact. And if I don't know something, hopefully, if you listen to me enough, you'll know that I'll say that's my opinion or I guess, because I will never sit there and try and mislead anyone. There's no point, because you guys are smart enough to catch me out, and I wouldn't do that. Lisa's wrote the effects everything on Earth, animals, plants, water pull on the Earth. That's going back to the moon. Crofties wrote correct, which I'm guessing something I said, hopefully. Crofties wrote Nibiru, destroyer of Tiamat, eons ago. Out of that is the result of the terraforming belief. You've obviously done your homework, Crofty. Crofty then wrote, our system is hugely electromagnetic and all interconnected. Nibiru creates a great disturbance in the force. Crofty didn't say that last bit, I did. But yeah, no, it does. It does. And you're probably not far wrong there with the electromagnetic side of things. So yeah, Eddie's wrote, how can we fight them? They die easily. Are you referring to the Anunakki? If you're referring to the Anunakki, this is why they're not coming back. So some bloke wrote a book saying they're coming back in 2022. People bought that book. Crazy. I should have I'm going to just buy it and change the title and change it to 2023 and resell it. But that's why they're not coming back. That's why aliens don't want to come, partly, to be fair. There's other reasons. But would you? I mean, you've just literally asked, how can we fight them? They haven't attacked us, and we're already talking about attacking them. And that's why I'm petrified for Bigfoot as well, because the moment we prove, without a shadow of a doubt, there's Bigfoot real, people will be out hunting it like nobody's business. JJ's wrote, I wonder who made the Anunnaki. Well, the good news is, in their ancient texts, they literally talk about how they evolved. It's basically the same as how we imagine we evolved, which was animal, fish maybe. They didn't say fish, but they basically said that they started off as, I'm trying to remember the wording, something like small animals, and over time they ended up with sticks to use as weapons, then more powerful weapons, and so on. So from that point of view, they wasn't created by the creator of everything in terms of sticking them on the planet, like supposedly our Bible sort of gives us the impression that we were. But again, how did they start their life? Was it seeded by a thing called panspermia, or was it just chemicals, as it may have been? So it's a hard one to know. Or or was there a creator of everything and just zapped up the microscopic things that was needed to start life on different planets? I don't know the answer to that. Sice has wrote, what about the inner Earth? I believe everything is coming from there because of the firmament. Okay, I struggle with the firmament because the original word for firmament pretty much meant atmosphere. Yeah, and somehow over time people have nabbed that word and created it and turned it into a Truman Show bloody invisible dome that no one's ever seen, no one's ever touched. And yes, even those rockets don't hit it because there's other rockets that go higher than that. So the ones that supposedly hit it and bounce off, there's rockets that's gone higher than that. Brain cannot compute. But inner Earth, yes, I think there's chasms. I think there's massive areas underground that can support life. Absolutely, I do believe that. I mean, I've going off with whistleblowers and stuff like that. Yes, they also agree there is an inner Earth. Some descriptions differ from the whistleblowers. Some say that there's life underneath there. Some say there's just plant life underneath there. So but the firmament, no. Sorry. Honestly, if you go back, read the Book of Enoch and stuff like that, you'll see that they talk about the firmament, and it wasn't. They just struggled to get through our atmosphere, which is understandable because their atmosphere was dwindling, which is the whole reason why they come here. And our atmosphere is quite thick compared to theirs. They struggled to get through it. They had to go around the planet twice. It says so. So, they had to get through our atmosphere, which was hard. Whereas Mars, they didn't have a problem with. and it says so. So that was your firmament, which makes sense, but somehow some numpty has said, hang on a minute, if they struggled to get through it, let's make it an impenetrable dome. Impenetrable, but they got through it. Okay, well then there's no Anunnaki then, we can't have that. But if there's no Anunnaki, the actual texts come from the Anunnaki about the firmament. Got a bit of a problem here. Let's forget the Anunnaki. They may have came here, but they may have opened a door in the impenetrable dome. And what about meteorites that come through? Yeah, well, they're inside the dome. Let's make the dome bigger so we can have the meteorites inside the dome. You see where I'm going with that? So it just doesn't make sense. Just scrolling down to questions. Park Life wrote, if each word has, wow, I'm really behind. If each word has 6 different meanings, how can we take even one sentence as factual? So, for example, I'll give you one example. One word could mean teeth, throat, head, nose, mouth. The next word could mean 2 words. As I say, up to 6 words. Could mean hurt, pain. So, as you read, somehow the Anunnaki obviously clearly knew what it all meant, but we would have to carry on reading, and it makes it a little bit harder to understand, because obviously you could say toothache or pain, and then you carry on reading and you realise that no, actually it wasn't tooth, it was head. So yes, I agree. It's a hard language to understand, but the beautiful thing is, all of the people that have translated it have all translated it to the same word, pretty much the same wording. So either they're all wrong or they're all right. I'd probably go along with all right, simply because what they're talking about actually not only makes sense, because it wasn't something like totally off subject, like Starship Enterprise, and then the next word being Stargate. They didn't have their translations actually all made sense. So if you was translating it and it was nonsensical, then they would probably go back and translate it again and try and get it so that it actually makes logical sense. That's my guess. Mika's wrote, love this screen. Hi, Mika. I'm having a hard one today with this. I tell you, with people, I've been accused of things, and people's run away because I mentioned what was it? This person, Joanne, wrote, because I mentioned black Neanderthal monkeys, or I mentioned monkeys to do with colour skin, or the hair colour, in fact, I was talking about, but this person got so upset that they done a runner, which is crazy. I don't know what the world's coming to. Sometimes I do think, don't. Anyway, RP has wrote, just visited Grand Canyon. Clearly a mining project. Also heard Egyptians' artifacts found there. Yes, that's right. They did some mining for some minerals. The Egyptians did, yeah. But you got to ask yourself, why would the Egyptians have done it? How would they have taken it back to Egypt? Surely there's other places that they would have found. They would have had to have travelled for decades and decades and decades before they come to a place where they found the right minerals that they required, because obviously clearly there's no structures around locally to the Grand Canyon, so either that got destroyed or they took the materials back to another location, such as Egypt. Now, if you go along with the Anunnaki, where we know they had technology to look for gold, because it says so in the original tablets, then they probably had technology to look for other materials, and they could have flew there, dropped some of these Egyptians off and said, right, hurry up and dig out that, I need that material for whatever. That's my guess on that. I doubt if there was Egyptians that went all the way over there just to dig for stuff to then take all the way back. It's a hell of a long journey from Grand Canyon in America to Egypt, which was across an ocean. Mika's joined and said hello from Southern California. It's 10 a.m. Hi, Mika. I've been doing quite a long one tonight, actually. Crofties wrote Worlds in Collision by Emmanuel. Yeah, someone else wrote that as well. Sounds like a good book. Miko has wrote, do you have any book recommendations around this topic? Around the God versus the Anunnaki topic, not really. I've not really read anyone else's books that sort of do this. I mean, I can recommend, obviously, Zachariah Sitchin, for example, but, if you've not read anything to do with the Anunnaki, start with The Lost Book of Enki, and then go through Sitchin's work thereafter. And as you do, feel free to look up other people that's researched Sitchin's work. You will come across the odd people that say he's been debunked, but if you watch my videos, you find out that I debunk them because they are or have been or are still working for the Rockefellers through a university or a foundation or a something like that, and then you realise that they're deliberately trying to debunk Sitchin to avoid us knowing. Mika's wrote, hi Clark. Yeah, he's gone back to his room, thank God. Lisa's wrote, well mannered boy. Yeah, he is. He's a little cheeky. I say little. He's 20, believe it or not, but he's had an issue when he was born, which makes him more like a 5-year-old. But yeah, he's a little cheeky sod. Lisa's wrote, the Native Americans believed in star people. Yeah, I think I read someone else wrote that. Ex-Laura's wrote, I have an 18-year-old always hungry. Yeah, Clark is always hungry, yeah. Lisa's wrote, oh, your boy's so sweet. Credit to you. Thank you. Yeah, he's so polite. He is. I mean, the school teachers and everything say he's polite. He even helps with washing up and stuff. He broke a plate the other day, but so I don't think I'm going to let him help wash up anymore. Just scrolling down to questions. Otherwise, I will be here all night. Ex-Laura's wrote, was watching Stranger Things earlier. Yeah, I'm going to have to stick some dinner on and I don't know how many I'll watch tonight, but yeah, it's either that or the Star Trek, Star Wars, Obi-Wan, but I'm not so fussed about that. I think they seem to be using the same locations over and over for The Mandalorian and Boba Fett and all these. RP's Fishing's wrote, feed those hungry boys, laugh at our great show. Thank you very much. Yeah, he will be fed. TP Madness is right. I missed that part you were saying about the spark of life and the hard drive. Can you quickly go over? I'm not sure about the spark of life, but basically an energy orb has been here since the beginning of time if you go by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. They're eternal if you go by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and clairvoyants and mediums and spiritualists. These energy orbs, I call them energy orbs, I don't know what else to call them. I don't like calling them spirits until they've been with us and then we've died and then we become that orb. So that's when in my opinion, I call them spirits really, or ghosts. And then when that crosses over to another plane of existence, and you've probably heard clairvoyants say, even exorcisms and stuff, go to the light. That's them going off to the next plane of existence, and then you, if that was you with that orb, your memory now is just a memory in there, your personality's gone, and that orb goes back round again, joins with someone else. There's more to it. It has to go in front of a council of, what I call Council of Aliens, which is written again, I've been saying this for years, but it's also written in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And, when you die, you do a life review and stuff like that. So, people say it was a contract with God. It wasn't a contract with God. It was an agreement that you would do with these other 7 Council of Aliens, which are just basically larger light orbs. But watch my videos if you haven't seen them. I try and go through it. I even go through the pineal gland and the eye of Horus and all that kind of stuff, which explains a bit. Ex-Laura's wrote Mud something University. Not sure what that's referring to. Sorry, my fault. There we are. Yes, Ex-Laura. See, you're very clever, Ex-Laura. Ex-Laura's... I was talking earlier about the calcification of these teddy bears, and I said it was to do with a witch, but I just couldn't remember the name of the witch or the area. And Ex-Laura has done me justice here by saying it was Mother Shipton's Petrifying Well. That's what it was called. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's calcification as opposed to petrification, but thank you, Laura. You've saved my bacon there. Aliens wrote, Clark is hungry. He's always hungry. Yeah, he's a little monkey. I have to be careful what I said. I just said his little monkey is in a terms of endearment thing, but I don't want people getting... It's just so bad these days, isn't it? I'm frightened to say anything. I don't know what the world's coming to. Vetsky has wrote, thank you for answering my questions. Where can I find more info from you? My website, in fact. No, this wasn't a setup. I didn't sit here and type that. Then I just see underneath Vetsky's wrote, you've just answered my question. But my videos, there's 800 plus and more counting, are on YouTube, on TikTok, or on ourtruehistory.co.uk. And there's live chats as well on there. Some people listen to them, sadly. I don't know why, but they do. Holy Servant has wrote, I believe Anunaki created humans for their own benefit on Earth. You are spot on. They did indeed. They used us to mine they helped. It comes across that, hey, here's humans, we'll just sit back and let them do it. No, they still chipped in, but the hard part, the toil, as they called it, they actually used the word toil, or the translation was toil instead of work, but the toil that, was majority eventually over time, where there was enough humans, took the burden off. And sorry, it's yawning. And they never complained, apparently, according to the texts. Holy has wrote, the reason why we have faith in God is because we have genetics of a higher power, which is the Anunnaki. So, yeah, I mean, we've got 2 fused chromosomes. We've got a missing link between us and the Neanderthals. We've got ancient texts that talk about the Anunnaki genetically modifying the Neanderthals. So I know you're saying we have faith in a God, but technically everything that I've just said, you can go and check out, makes more sense to me. And I'm not knocking you, please don't think I'm doing that, but there's that bloody thing again. Sorry. I will... Sorry, that's my UFO alert. That means there's aliens outside waiting for me. Yeah, so I know you say, genetics of a higher power, but that means every creature on Earth would have genetics of a higher power. Or are you just saying that humans are the only ones with genetics of a higher power? If you're saying only humans, then yes, you're right, Anunnaki. If you're saying everything's got genetics of a higher power, how would you know that that's just not nature and evolution? How would you know that genetics in a dog or a cat or a dinosaur or whatever has a higher genetic content from a higher power if we've got no control? And when I say control, when you do experiments for things, you need a control. You need one that's not affected by anything first, and then you need to see the results from different tests from the control or comparing it to the control. But obviously, if everything is equal, such as everything's got the higher powered genetics, then logic would say you can't quantify that simply because everything is exactly the same, if that makes sense. You got to star shift, or I'm adding an F in there. Did any Anunnaki stay on Earth when most left? That is the $1 million question. If they did, they would be behind the elites, because they're not walking among us. 8 to 12 foot, you'd know if they were walking among us. I've had people say, "Oh, the Anunnaki are walking among us." Really, 8 to 12 foot. That's humongous height. Humongous. There's carvings of them, as I've mentioned before, holding a lion under his arm like it's a little freaking small dog. A lion. Have you ever stood next to a lion? Massive. So yeah, if any stayed on Earth, they would be ruling with the elites, in my opinion. Jal has wrote great chat, listening all the way from Mexico. Oh, I think you're the first Mexican. I hope I've said that right, because I seem to upset people when I say words and stuff that I don't seem to have a list of things. But no, it's lovely to have you listening in. Mexico's got some great history behind it as well. So I haven't done any videos on Mexico, but there is some history there as well. Peaches wrote, "Hi Susie, what are you having for tea?" has wrote, "Did the Anunnaki speak of their creator?" They did a few times, and when I say their creator, they spoke of, this is their wording, creator of everything. What that is, I have no idea. It could be, a gaseous cloud. It could be another race another race that created our universe by messing around with some particles. It could be them, the creator of everything. It just doesn't. There's no real description of the creator of everything, but they do believe there is a creator of everything, and the little greys believe there's a creation or source. So what that is, I have no idea. Of Ent has wrote, "I think the Almighty Being is the universe itself, as God only had themselves to build the universe." See, going back with the creator of everything, I mean, that's a possibility, but I don't think, well, I know, in my opinion, that the Bible is literally talking about the Anunnaki, because everything that it says in the Bible is the same as what the Anunnaki had wrote thousands of years before. So, but there may be a creator of everything that created the universe. It's possible. You got two has wrote, "Don't worry about the doubters, they will be on board with time. Too much evidence." I don't know whether they're even going to open their eyes, but the saddest bro has wrote, "I love your videos, bro. Tons of great info." Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. Those are the comments that keep me going and not making my son his dinner when I should be doing it. The saddest wrote, "How do you feel about the Ra material?" You're going to hate me for this. What Ra material are you referring to? Obviously, my first thoughts go to Ra as in Amun Ra or Ra, because there was actually two different names for Ra. Believe it or not. But I don't know what Ra material you're referring to, sorry. Or it might just be RA material, I'm not sure. Pammy's wrote, "Do you believe that the Admiral," I'm guessing that's a bird, but you put Bine, "claimed to have experience with inner Earth beings?" So the story goes from his diary that he went to Antarctica, was tractor beamed into the an inner Earth type scenario, not all the way down. We're not talking center of the Earth. It was basically a chasmous area. Warned never to come back by Nazis and possibly aliens with them. Now, these could have been the Aryans, which is what Nazi German was trying to aspire to, or Hitler was anyway. Or it could have been the Dracos, we're not sure. But whoever it was did give the technology to the Nazis and even told them where to go under the ice to get to this particular place. And then Admiral Byrd, after being told never go back there, goes back to the White House and tells them what's going on. And they say, right, we'll send half of a fleet to Antarctica and take them out and steal their technology, because he told them about the craft that he saw that could fly from pole to pole within a few minutes. So they went back there. They classed it as a called it a scientific expedition. A scientific expedition. And there's videos actually, they took camera crews with them because obviously they wanted to capture as much information as they could. So there is actual footage out there. You can look at it online of Admiral Byrd's expedition to Antarctica with this massive fleet, and they've had to icebreakers and all sorts of things. But on this scientific expedition, there was tanks, planes, half of the American military fleet, jeeps, literally every military technology you can possibly think of, compared to scientific equipment. So they was going there to have a war. And unfortunately, the Americans lost, and many people died. And what was left ended up coming back with the tails between its legs. And a couple of years later, or a year or so later, the one of their craft flew over Los Angeles, believe it or not. And there is footage, or at least a photograph of the craft over, and it was called the Battle of LA. Yes, that was to do with that. And it was supposedly the one of the crafts from Antarctica coming over saying, hey, you come near us again, we can get to you and you can't even shoot us down. And that's exactly what happened. They tried to shoot it down, couldn't shoot it down. And the craft deliberately went slow to prove that it could get right up to Los Angeles. And eventually, long story short, the military, the Nazis actually needed personnel, so they ended up doing a deal with the Americans, and they all worked happily in Antarctica. And then that's when the Americans found out that the Nazis had already built bases on the moon. They'd already been up there in these crafts that they had already had, and that is why they were so desperate in 1947 to try and back engineer these crafts that they kept capturing from such events as Roswell, because as you know, the Nazis already had this working technology. What do you think of those recent sightings of UAPs are? And then wrote, of course, mainstream lie. I mean, there's I still think the narrative, years ago we used to get told we was tinfoil hat people, because, and you know where the story comes from, the tinfoil hat, don't you? It's because there was this rancher that was kidnapped by aliens, and they read his mind, and he didn't want to. They kept taking him, and he didn't like that. So he thought, if I wore metal over my head, they wouldn't be able to talk to me and take me and abduct me. So he put this tinfoil type stuff over his head, thinking it would shield him from this telepathic thoughts. Clearly didn't, but other people that was also being abducted thought, oh, that's a good idea. I'll wear a tinfoil hat as well, and that's where the reference come from, tinfoil hat. So, it wasn't just until, 5 years ago that you would still be laughed at if you said there was a UFO out there. But now, mainstream are talking about it left, right, and centre. And I think there's a reason for that, and I think it's called Project Bluebeam. If you don't know what that is, go and look it up. Ellie's wrote, is there any books you could recommend that unravel the Anunnaki texts? That you can actually learn cuneiform if you want to, believe it or not. There's websites and stuff. It's a hard language to learn, obviously, but you can. There is descriptions of what we call it a stylus, but it was actually made out of reed. Like a bulrush reed type thing as a stylus. And so there is you can read it yourself. That's why it frustrates the hell out of me that people keep saying Zachariah Sitchin's lied. The tablets are there. They're in the British Museum. They're in the Baghdad Museum. Wasn't until the American military went in there pretending there was someone else smashing them up. They're in Nineveh. They're in universities even. These tablets. There's hundreds of thousands of them. So you can actually read the tablets yourself. And that's why I get so frustrated when people say Zachariah Sitchin's lied. They're there for everyone to read. But anyway, if you've not read anything from Zachariah Sitchin, regarding unraveling the books, the text, he done a fantastic job, in my opinion. I've read lots of other translations from lots of other people. He, in my opinion, is the best. He did make some mistakes early on, in his earlier books. 1976, if I remember correctly, called The 12th Planet was his first book. He said a couple of things wrong, but later on, in other books, you realise that he's worked it out and corrected himself. But, that's fair enough. I make mistakes, and I, hands up if I make a mistake. But yeah, he's the best. So either read or listen to an audio book of The Lost Book of Enki. Your jaw will drop. And then go and, if you don't believe it, go and look it up. As I say, the tablets are out there. Most of them are out there. And then you're just like, wow, okay, it makes so much more sense. And then come back and see me if you want more places to look for. Fallon has wrote, hi, I find out that I have... Thank you, DJ Lady, for the things that you just sent me. Oh, bless you. Fallon's wrote, hi, I just found out that I have a haunted doll that my family feeling like no good when feeling they see it. Okay, so when an object is possessed, for want of a better word, okay, this is just my take on years and years of research. It is a jinn, because normal people spirits don't generally inhabit objects. They'll float around the room, they'll knock stuff, blah, blah, blah. But if you've got something that's attached to something, it's a jinn, and that's exactly what the Arabics used to say they did. In fact, a jinn, for those of you that don't know, was the genie in the Aladdin's story. Obviously, Disney's changed it to make him a cute person, but it wasn't. It was a jinn that attached itself to a lamp, not like the lamp that you imagine in Disney films. But yeah, so I would, if you genuinely feel that it's got that kind of vibe to it, give it to Bill Gates. Give it to someone you don't like. That's what I would do with it. Honestly, it's not worth the risk, because they... I'm trying to worry about time here, but the jinn feed off of fear. So while that's in your house, and if you are anxious, doing bad at things, and it's causing you distress and any negativity, this thing will lap up. And eventually, if you get to a point where you are so, worn down in terms of mental state, that's when they try and take and possess you. So, yeah, my advice, give it to someone you don't like, preferably not me. RP Fishing, thank you for answering my question about the Anunnaki being immortal, because what I learned through, I was trying to see if there was a next bit, through study, was that Nibiru travels through space and time, slowing down age like Jesus spoke of. Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I've not heard anyone say that. So, yeah, their planet is every month on Earth, it's 1 day on their planet. That's roughly what it works out to be. I've not heard it slowing down time or anything like that. Yeah, I've not heard that. I mean, it's interesting, but I've not heard the planet slow down. I just always assumed that for them, when they die at 70 to 100 years old, that's fine for them. They know no different. But to us, it's a million years. So, yeah, I just thought that as opposed to it slowing down time. Of course, then if they slowed down, even if their planet slowed down time, does that mean they sped up when they were off their planet? Thus why they got older here quicker, because they did. It's an interesting thought. I've not thought of that. Thank you. Sice has wrote, liberals in the USA vote left, not refuting what you say at all. Yeah, I thought it was something political when he said liberals. Yeah, see, I always struggle with the left and right. For me, I just go with the logic on anything. And I always thought to myself, if I made a political party, I'm never going to, but if I ever made a political party, it would be called the logical party, where no one can say left, right, up, down, none of that baloney crap that suits people's agendas. It would just be something logical. And, if something needed to be done, new railway line or whatever, the way I would do it would be look at it, obviously logical, costs and everything else, and then go ahead. If it fails, it fails. If it works, great. That's just the way I would do things, because we've had so many things here over time that never got done because there's so much procrastinating over things, that it costs more time and money doing these researching on things. It costs millions to research what we call the HR2, or I think it's HR2 train thing, millions and millions. And then they stopped. Same goes for Heathrow Airport at Terminal 5, or at the fifth runway. Cost millions and millions and millions, and then they stopped, and then later on they have to research it again. So sometimes it's quicker just to actually do the thing. And then Official has wrote God versus Anunnaki, and Anunnaki held smoke. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out what that means. Obviously, it's something you know that I don't. So I'll read that again. Official has wrote God versus Anunnaki, and Anunnaki held smoke. I have no idea what that means. I'm hoping it's not a stupid comment. Right. RP has wrote study. Yeah, that was read that because that was part of the other comment. Ellie's wrote, didn't know that about the Greys. I'm not sure what I was talking about now, sorry. How will we differentiate between Project Blue Beam and disclosure? We won't, because there is no disclosure. What they're doing now, in my opinion, is queuing us up so that when Project Blue Beam does start, we'll be going, oh, that is an alien craft. Because we could otherwise say, no, it's swamp gas, it's a drone, it's Venus, it's whatever. But if they make us now, over the next period of time, believe there really is UFOs, then when we see it, they will say, hey, everybody, come with us. We'll look after you in our camps that we just happened to build last year. We'll protect you. And that's the end of you, in my opinion. RP was going to share on my channel Conspiracy Truth 1947 about UFOs, but you reach more people. Listen, buddy, anyone that's got anything, I will more than happy try and point people to your channel. If you want, that's no problem at all. Just let me know. It's no worries. And if I can help in any way, I will. Ellie's wrote, you could say, where did the small animals come from? Or are we in a matrix? I still don't agree with the matrix side. I think my thoughts are that it's this is my take. Our universe was created by another race that accidentally or deliberately created a universe in a CERN type machine. That explains the Big Bang. That explains the creator of everything, and explains why the universe is expanding. How they started this other universe, their own universe, I have no idea. But I think we're a very small universe in a room in there somewhere, and they're holding us with a force field around it. I think that's a very logical answer. I know people say that's science fiction, but it fits all of the criteria that we need. How the Big Bang started. Because at the moment we've got nothing. 2 particles. Well, what was before the particles? Whereas at least with my idea, it is conceivable. And if you watch my videos, there is actually a person that supposedly had. Go watch my videos. It's near the beginning of the videos, and you'll see a story from a person, genuine story. And I say genuine because the police were involved at the end of it, because he went missing and he actually ended up in that room with people, with aliens telling him that that's our universe that he's just come out of and is now. And that was, he used an old star door where the locals had told him that if you hum a certain tune, you can disappear through it. Long story, watch the video, but yeah. RP's wrote, must prepare people, gentlemen from NASA who worked on radio systems, stated World War II Nazis gained ancient technology which the American government attempted to fight in Antarctica when we landed. Yes, that's okay, sorry, I've just got to that, but yeah, you've probably heard me say that already. Yeah, that was so yeah, you've heard that as well, but yeah. Prince has wrote, we've never been to Mars. In fairness, I'm kind of in agreement with you to a point. I think the NASA photographs are all fake. I think they're done on that location, on their island that they have. They have an island that they do all these photographs on, which is why we have rodents and, wood sleepers that you would put in trains and lichen there, etc., etc. However, the other side of that is, I think, from whistleblowers and the fact that, I believe that they've got the technology to go to Mars and further. I think they are on Mars, as whistleblowers have said, but not through NASA, but through the secret space program. RP Fishing's for ancient technology. Yeah, that's carrying on. Sorry, just about yawn. Eddie's wrote, are there any aliens, hostile, peaceful, currently in our planet? Are we controlled? Can't tell you 100% whether we're controlled or not. The whistleblowers have said there is an alien race that's in control of our 13 families that control our planet. Hostile aliens here, not that I'm aware of. Peaceful ones, hard to say. There are hybrids now been put among us. These are the hybrids that the little greys were abducting people for the hybrid program. They've now stopped abducting people. They've now created what they needed to create, and they've now put those people on Earth. Longer story than that, but yeah. Ellie's wrote Van Ellen Belt. I don't remember that song. I remember Van Halen. That's a joke. Van Halen. You've not actually wrote a question, so I don't know what to say to that. RP has wrote, on the moon, astronauts noticed being watched by someone through remote viewing. It was determined. And then Eddie's wrote, same as Inuit have many words for snow and house. I mean, technically, we have a few words for the same thing. I mean, one particular swear word starts with F. Has actually got so many different meanings. Blue Pine Cone Productions has wrote Archon's Demurrage and Satan Worship. I don't know if there was something before that, but I've not seen it, so I don't know if that's sort of a question or something. Blue, and then the same person wrote Vibrational Warfare. Cool Cal Borok has wrote Anunakki or Fallen Angels. No, the Aigi were the Fallen Angels, which technically are Anunakki, but they're not really Anunakki. Anunakki is the name given to the ones here on Earth. The Aigi were the ones given the name on Mars. So technically, the race Elohim encompasses them all, which is their name, but it was the Aigi that were the fallen angels. Celtic has wrote, are the Anunnaki still here on Earth? Because there seems to be advanced beings coming and going. Not the Anunnaki. They didn't have. They had rocket type ships. So it's not them. Unless since they left, they've managed to sort out anti-gravity craft. So it's not them, in my opinion. RP Fissions wrote, the Nazis had to build a base on the dark side. We were advised when not to return by the Nazis. That's why we've never returned. Had 3 rockets to go, he stated. NASA destroyed it. Gentleman was 81 years old. Yeah, I've pretty much heard the same things as that, but not from that 81-year-old. X-Laws wrote, it's been fascinating. I've learned so much. You're more than welcome. Thank you for even taking the time. And then RP's wrote, he was being honest. Yeah, no, I've heard the same things from different sources. RP's wrote, also, as you know, we brought over 22 Nazis. Yeah, that was called Project Paperclip, if I remember correctly, to work on the space program, and many escaped to Argentina. Yeah, supposedly Hitler actually went there. He went to the Antarctica base in a submarine, so it was his double that died. They had doubles back then. They still do to this day, in fact. Hitler supposedly went to Argentina after staying in Antarctica for a couple of years. A.B. Quaction has wrote, I love your live chats. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It means a lot to me, those sort of comments. It's what keeps me going. Peaches wrote 725. Wow, okay, I'm trying to get through them. Levens wrote UFO alert. Oh, that was that bloody thing I tried to give. Yeah, don't ask me what it is. Jeff Flumer has wrote, if we are all one, it doesn't matter what planet we are from. Anunnaki are as fallible as humans. They are. Yeah, they are. I never said they wasn't. They did die, and in fact, some of them killed each other over wars and whatnot. X-Laws wrote, my old neighbour was 7'6". Wow. So seeing tall people walking around was normal to me. That's huge. I think when I was dealing with a particular movie project, I needed. There's actors out there that would dress up in prosthetics, head to toe. So, and tall people generally, So I had this particular guy. He was in many movies, but you wouldn't never have seen his face because he's always in prosthetics. Anyway, he came to my house, and he was 7'1", and I felt so small. So 7'6", I just, I don't, because I'm 6'3", and generally, as a general rule, I'm not, I'm sort of normally the tallest in an area, but when that 7'1" person came in my house and literally ducked, and I was looking up at him, I felt so small. So could you imagine a 12-foot Anunaki? Oh man, no wonder why we'd call them, worship them, call them gods, because there's no way in a physical fight, there's no way we'd be able to beat them without any kind of weapons and stuff. Peaches wrote to Laura, worked with a guy 6'10". Yeah, anyone taller than. There's my sister, my daughter's boyfriend's 6'4", and he's just ever so slightly taller than me, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate him looking up at someone. Laura's wrote, was the Admiral's diary not found to be fake? The Admiral's diary was never found, if memory serves me. But the people that did read it before it got disappeared said it was true. Now, if you look at it from a logical point of view, we've got evidence that he went back there with an expedition of army military ships, literally a whole armada of them. So which would be correct? The totally fake diary, or a diary that matches up with a whole army going back to the Antarctic region when there's no one there to fight other than penguins? And don't shout at me if penguins are not native to Antarctica, because I know certain places they're not. But so I would go along with the logic that you only take half of a fleet along with military planes and everything to Antarctica if you was going to have a fight with something. So I would say, from a logic point of view, RP Fishers, wow, you've covered it on before reading my notes. Thank you. Yes. It was nice to read yours when I got to yours, and you was talking about the same thing that I'd heard before. So it's nice to know that there's people like you out there that's clued up as well. Thanks, Laura's wrote, unfortunately, tinfoil hat is an amplifier. Yeah, that's probably why it didn't work. Celtic wrote, why is Alaska a hotbed for UFOs and paranormal activities? So over the years, I've been doing this for 40-something years. Don't want to give my age away, but you can probably guess. I started when I was 6, so you can probably guess 40-something years. And over that time, there's, I used to get sent these sort of fanzines, magazines about UFOs and people's abductions and stuff like that. So it's, even though I didn't have the internet, I was still, reading books. Even though I couldn't spell, I could read. So basically over time, and you'll see this with MUFON, there is hotspots for a year or two in different locations, and then they move on. Literally wows everywhere you can possibly think of. They've been there, stayed around as a hotspot, and then moved on. So if they're there longer than a couple of years, chances are there's something they're obviously doing there, or they've got a base there. So Alaska doesn't normally ring much with me. My boy's just come out for his dinner now. Pammy, so I'm going to try and be quick now. Pammy's wrote, do you think they've used genetics of the giant shot in Afghanistan? Yes, they have. So not only have we had the whistleblowers from the Kandahar giant story, we've also have whistleblowers saying that they tried to make, or have been doing so for many years, trying to make a super soldier from giant skeletons, and now they've got a giant that they can actually take the DNA from and try and make a genetic super soldier. What are you doing, Clark?
Send it to your way, of course.
All right, I'll make you something in a sec.
Alright.
So yes, the answer to your question is yes. Thank you. I see DJ Ladies gave me Christ knows how many all sorts of magical things. Thank you, DJ Lady. Anyone that's interested, DJ Lady is fantastic at being a DJ on her own channel.
Brownie's not.
Give me 2 seconds, Clark. Mika's wrote, yes, jaw dropping Book of Enki. Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, if you've done any kind of research on the Bible, because it obviously ties up everything. If you don't know the Bible that well, then it might not seem so fantastic. But I remembered quite a fair bit from the Bible as I was going through the Book of Enki for the first time, and I was like, wow, every paragraph is like, oh my God, that makes sense. Oh, that's why this. Oh, that's that. Oh, it's phenomenal. We are so lucky to have had Zachariah Sitchin. I still watch some of his videos, but they're getting pulled off of YouTube, believe it or not. I remember watching other ones, and I can't find them now, which is freaking annoying. And again, I did this all for myself. I never thought I'd need to go back and research stuff. So, Scamlets wrote, do you believe an alien species want to abrupt the world order and enlighten humans, Palladians, etc.? I do believe they do, but I don't. But I believe they're not going to be able to because of the quarantine that's around Earth, which is created by a galactic federation to stop aliens interfering. Unless we allow them to interfere, e.g., a treaty, they're not going to be able to. So yes, I do think they know what's going on. I think there's people that have been contacted at night in their dreams by Palladians, telling them, wake up, sort of thing, do this, do that. So yeah, I think they're totally aware of what's going on. Famers wrote, why are the Greys putting hybrids here? I do not know the answer to that. I've listened to people that's actually been their handlers. They needed handlers to set them up with properties and whatnot. But I do not know what the answer is. I can't even guess. The logic would say probably so that when we destroy ourselves, they will be here and know how to run everything and stuff. I don't know the answer. I would love to know, but I don't know. RP Fishing, thank you so much, my friend, for sharing information. Nice to know someone else so deep. God bless. God bless. You're welcome.
I found the open bit, Dad. Dad, I found the open bit.
What have you nabbed from the fridge?
Nothing, just
what is it?
a chocolate, what's they call it?
I don't know, what is it?
This is a chocolate, brownie.
It's not a chocolate brownie.
No, wrap.
Is it a wrap thing?
Yes, that's the one, that's the
Right, you can have that for 5 minutes, then I'll make you dinner. Oh my God, all the time. Right, okay, I'm going to have to shoot in 2 seconds then. Lapis has wrote, what do you think about the Dark Knight? I'm guessing you're referring to the Black Knight, not the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was a movie, or Batman. The Black Knight was the supposed alien craft of some description, whether it's a probe or not, that has a polar orbit, which means it goes from pole to pole as opposed to around the middle of the Earth, which is what normal things do. If I could go into it, but basically, bottom line is, if it was real, it's been picked up by the military by now. They would have taken it. Definitely something there. Otherwise, NASA wouldn't have tried to explain it away by saying it was a part of a craft. I don't think it was part of a craft, simply because it's black. And when you look at all the components of spacecraft, generally they're not black, simply because if you drop something, you'll never see it again. So they paint them white. So I kind of think NASA might have been lying on that. And I do think there was something there then. But what it is, it's hard to say. I don't think it was here for millions of years, simply because humans was only here for 300,000 years of our time, and really only 100,000 of that time is where we was smart enough to be able to write ourselves. So it can't have been here any longer than 1,000,000 years because we wouldn't have known. It's possible it was, but we can't say for sure. Living Spirit has wrote, God and Anunaki are the same consciousness as we are one. Spirit-wise or orb-wise, I would say everything is connected. No, we can't order tonight. What do you like? Sorry, my cheeky boys, because I've been doing this. Eddie's wrote, when Project Bluebeam happens, what should we do? Same thing we should be doing now is just switching off our TV and not listening to the crap that we're getting lied to. I don't know what to do when it comes. Depends where you are, I guess. Try and convince the military that it's not what it seems. Mika said, you said Nazis are on the moon. This real? Yeah. They've been there since the 50s.
Hot dog.
Early 50s, very early. Clark, yeah, they have been. I mean, there's countless stories and even some movies talking about Nazis on the moon. But yeah, they have been. Laura's wrote, love tonight, thank you. Off to make dinner too. You're more than welcome. Thank you, Laura.
My son, yeah.
All right, Clark, I'm coming. Levon's wrote, great chat, thank you. You're more than welcome. Lapis wrote, yes, Black Knight, sorry. I've read that they received signals, etc. Anyway, thanks for answering. Yeah, I mean, Nicholas reckons he had got signals, etc. I mean, I could go into more detail, but I should have made my boy dinner about an hour or so ago. Mika's wrote, please do a vid on the Nazis. Okay. Give me 1 sec. Okay, Google.
PM.
Okay, I'm going to put that one on Patreon simply because some of my other videos where I've mentioned Nazis actually got pulled off YouTube, believe it or not, and TikTok.
What?
The world's mad, isn't it? So yes, that's why. And I know you're a Patreon follower. Thank you very much. So I'll put it on there just so I don't. Otherwise, I'll put it up and it will just get taken back down. For some reason or other. Lapis wrote, it's okay, I've got kids too, so I know it can get busy. Anyway, just to say, see your vids every day, so have a good evening. Thank you very much. So to everyone that's listening and on YouTube once I put this up, and Spotify and wherever else you're listening from, thank you very much. Do feel free to either watch my videos on outruehistory.co.uk or YouTube as Our True History, or my Patreon channel, which has different videos, longer videos, and it's Our True History on the Patreon channel. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
My boy says thank you. Thank you for the hearts and everything that everyone sent me today. So thank you, and I will catch up with you guys soon. I'm off to watch, after I make him dinner, Stranger Things. Bye, everybody.
Bye.